Chapter 8:25. If she wanted revenge, she wanted to restore her country. Now, there was no country for her to restore. That's true. Finding something for her to do won't make her feel bored. Song Yanqing said, "Let me tell you something else. There's some news about Wanyan Yunhu who ran abroad, but he's too far away. That's not the territory of the Huaxia spiritualists, so we can't catch him. There's also someone who's causing trouble. There's a high probability that someone is stirring up trouble with the demonized spiritual seed. I even think that it's not the first time they've done this. Using the demonized spiritual seed to feed the demonized spiritualists." Xiao Jin narrowed her eyes. "I've thought about it before. If the demonized spiritual seed has any positive effects, it's only useful to me. Normal spiritualists definitely won't have a way to use it. If that's the case," she muttered, "give me the last address of her whereabouts. I'll go abroad to take a look." Song Yanqing frowned. "What did you think of?" "I think they're rivals. If there's a clue, I should go and take a look. I can't just let him hide and ignore me." Song Yanqing thought for a few seconds, then said decisively, "No. Give me a few days. I'll make some work arrangements and go with you." Xiao Jin smiled. "Why are you always worried about me? I'll be fine. If something happens, I'll run." Song Yanqing said helplessly and dotingly, "It's not that I'm worried about you. It's my fault as a boyfriend to always let you charge into battle alone. I'm a spirit master of speech and will always be of some use to you. If I feel that something is wrong, I can tell you immediately. Besides, after the fan incident, I haven't had any clues for the next step. I'll go with you and see if there's any breakthrough abroad." Xiao Jin wanted to look for her memories, but so did he. He still couldn't figure out why there were traces of him in the Rakshasa world. The Rakshasa world had been watching him closely. He had to figure out what was going on. Xiao Jin heard this and directly answered, "Okay." After hanging up, Xiao Jin went to class. She didn't have classes in the afternoon, so she went back to the Mu family. Of course, she had to go back to school at night. She couldn't always ask for leave. Even the homeroom teacher began to ask her what she was busy with all day long. As a student, of course, learning was the prerequisite. The Muzilian family was also very excited. Xiao Jin had really obtained the Ji family shares. For Xiao Fei and the others, this was one more reason to worry about her. Xiao Jin was now a rich woman. By grabbing the rich woman's thigh, he was grabbing his own future. So when he got the news that Xiao Jin was coming back in the afternoon, he immediately waited at home. Even when Mizuchu asked him to play billiards, he didn't go. It was rare for him to be able to relax. Mizuchu ignored him and went off on his own. Xiao Fei was puzzled. "Why don't you play billiards with your brother?" Muzilian looked solemn. "What's the point of going out to play every day?" "Xiao Fei, is this something you can say? The world is about to change." Mu Xiangshan mercilessly exposed him. "Do you believe that he's that kind of person? He knows that Xiao Jin has become a rich woman, so what kind of tricks are you thinking? It's not like Xiao Jin has a part in it right now. What you think all day long has nothing to do with you." Muzilian's expression was serious. "Grandpa, what are you talking about? How can I be that kind of person?" Chapter 8:26. Muzilian denied it 3 times. "I don't even know what you're talking about." Xiao Fei's expression changed. She reached out and pinched Mu Qilian's arm hard. "You're so unruly. If Xiao Jin's grandfather finds out about this, he'll think that you're cursing him. Besides, this is Xiao Jin's money. It has nothing to do with you. You'd better watch yourself. It's not like our family can't afford to raise you. Why are you still having such ideas all day long?" "Ah, it hurts." Muzilian sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at Xiao Fei in disbelief. "When did I do that? How can you think of your son as someone who doesn't know his place? I just don't want to go out. Can't I stay at home with you guys?" Xiao Fei said, "Who wants you to stay with us? We just know that your sister is coming back." As they spoke, Xiao Jin walked in from outside. When he saw Xiao Jin, Xiao Fei's expression changed. He immediately smiled. "Jin, you're back?" Xiao Jin nodded. He wasn't surprised to see Muzilian and Mu Xiangshan. He only said, "Qilian, Why are you at home every day? Mi Zillion's face darkened. Can't I be at home? Am I not a part of this family? In the past, when I went out, you guys said that I didn't go home every night. Now that I'm at home, you're saying that I don't go out. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? Xiao Fei said, Why are you so talkative now? Mu Xiangshan said, You're so talkative. You're like a bitch. Mi Zillion. His grandfather had the cheek to say that to him? Xiao Jin chuckled. Mi Zillion decided to ignore the blow. He looked at Xiao Jin and flashed his standard 8-tooth smile. I heard that you inherited a part of Ping An's grandfather's fortune. He used a rather subtle way of saying that part. Xiao Jin glanced at him. Yeah, what does it have to do with you? Mi Zillion, aren't you going to treat me to a meal? Xiao Jin. Why? Mi Zillion. Seeing that Mi Zillion was speechless, Xiao Fei immediately said, That's right. Why should I treat you to a meal? It has nothing to do with you. Mu Xiangshan looked at Mi Zillion. You only know how to poach Xiao Jin. Why don't you poach Ji Sikai instead? He has complete control over the Ji family. Wouldn't it be better for you to follow him? Unfortunately, he doesn't like men. Mi Zillion. Xiao Fei. What kind of words are you spouting? Xiao Fei ignored the two of them and asked Xiao Jin worriedly, What about Chai Yueli and Ji Chua? I heard that old Master Ji didn't leave anything for them and only let you and Ji Fan fight for the money. Would they be willing to accept that? You can't say that. Xiao Jin said slowly. He left a few houses for them. The price isn't low either. If they know what's good for them, they can live the rest of their lives without worrying about food or clothing. How can houses be compared to shares? Mi Zillion almost died from laughter. He slapped his thigh and said, If I were Chai Yueli and her husband, I would definitely fall out with them on the spot. Xiao Jin said, That's what Chai Yueli thinks. She even wants me to return the shares. Puffed. Xiao Fei couldn't help but say, She's really shameless. It's fine if it's hers, but this is all given to you by Old Man Ji. This is the world that Old Man Ji fought for. What does it have to do with her? Besides, doesn't she have a son? Chapter 8:27. Xiao Fei snorted. She was the one who abandoned you for her son. Now that she got what she wanted, Ji Fan got half of the shares. What's there for her to be dissatisfied about? Without Xiao Jin, Ji Fan would have gotten all the shares. Mi Zillion knew about this. Will she be satisfied? Of course she won't. I think she'll come to our house to make trouble. Maybe she'll cry and throw a tantrum like last time. She can cry even more than you, Mom. As soon as she finished speaking, Xiao Fei reached out and slapped her again. Mu Xiangshan, on the other hand, praised his grandson. That little brain of yours has finally been enlightened. He actually knows how to analyze the situation after the incident. Xiao Jin said, If she comes, tell her you're not at home. Don't let her in. If she cries at the door, let her cry. Take a picture and send it to the media. Everyone. Xiao Jin was really vicious. Xiao Jin wasn't being vicious. Xiao Jin just felt that if Chai Yueli really did such a thing, it meant that she was shameless. Did she need to save her own face? Mi Zillion pointed at her. Look, she's showing her vicious side after taking the money. Slap. This time, it was another slap. Mi Zillion didn't learn his lesson. He hugged his head and stood up angrily. I'm going to look for my brother. I'm so bored. Xiao Fei said, Get lost. Xiao Jin also talked about him and Song Yanqing. By the way, Fei Fei, I'll be going abroad with Song Yanqing in a few days. Going abroad again? Xiao Fei was a little hesitant, but when he heard that he was going with Song Yanqing, he didn't object. Go ahead if you want. Seeing that Xiao Jin's grades were good, Xiao Fei didn't care much about the school results. Besides, she couldn't do anything about it. Mu Xiangshan clicked his tongue and stood up. It's good to be young. With such a sigh, he left. In the evening, Xiao Jin stayed at the Mu family's house for dinner and then returned to school. She stayed in school for the next few days. Song Yanqing arranged for them to meet in 5 days. At that time, He and Xiao Jin would go abroad together. However, before it was time, Xiao Jin received a call from Meng Qingyu.
She was a little dumbfounded.
Big boss Xiao, didn't you ask us to capture a demonized girl who tried to slim herself down?
There's a problem again.
Xiao Jin frowned slightly. What's wrong now? Meng Qingyu said, she seems to have demonized again. It's hard to say. Should I come to you first? Sister He Yao and the others have gone to capture him. When Xiao Jin heard this, he said, okay. She met up with Meng Qingyu. The moment he saw Xiao Jin, Meng Qingyu immediately said, when we captured Feng Shuilan last time, we found out that you had taken her spirit seed. She became an ordinary person, but she had never killed anyone and was very scared. This was the first time we dealt with something like this. After locking her up for a while, the higher-ups decided to let her go. After all, her ability didn't seem like it would kill anyone, but we still sent people to keep an eye on her. We didn't expect that something would happen here. After she returned, she demonized again in less than 2 days. She even ran away. In 2 days, she lost so much weight that she changed shape. Because her appearance was completely different, we didn't catch her immediately. When Xiao Jin heard this, he frowned and said, second demonization? Generally speaking, this situation was very rare. Even if she took the spirit seed of a demonized person, the Rakshasa realm would take it back. Chapter 8:28. Feng Shuilan did not kill anyone. She did not even display her full ability. This was the first time they had encountered such a thing. Because of their wrong judgment, they thought that everything would be fine and let Feng Shuilan go. Feng Shuilan's life was very pitiful. She had been discriminated against since she was young because of her short and fat body. Her body, which was close to 100 kilograms, had been discriminated against since she was in school. Whether it was in her hometown or in school, she was the most miserable one. Those people laughed at her and bullied her. In the end, she entered the production team, and her fate was not necessarily bad. The entertainment industry pursued the principle of beauty above all. This made Feng Shuilan feel even more pressure. Her obsession was too deep that she became demonized. But since it was demonization, it was definitely an abnormal process. If she relied on her willpower to lose weight, she would be able to do so. She wanted to lose weight but was unwilling to do so. Instead, she became demonized because of this. This meant that her mentality was too weak. To her, the effect would probably be seen in a short period of time, or even sooner. This ability was simply made for her. He Yao and the others were soft-hearted, so they let her go back to live a normal life to see if she could be saved. Who knew that after 2 days, Feng Shuilan would demonize again? In 1 day, just 1 day, she lost 50 kilograms. Can you believe it? She went from a big fat person to a slim girl. When she ran out of the building to escape, the members of the spirit team who were watching her did not realize that she was Feng Shuilan. Xiao Jin's face darkened. 50 kilograms a day? She must have killed someone. Meng Qingyu looked at Xiao Jin. We haven't found anyone else's body yet, but 2 girls appeared next door. They ate too much and their bodies swelled like rubber balls. They have been sent to the hospital for treatment. This was the spirit team's mistake. They should not have let her go. The Rakshasa realm did not take Feng Shuilan's life. Instead, it gave her a chance to demonize a second time. The main reason was that they had not encountered such a situation before, so they made the wrong judgment. A second demonization was too rare. Apart from Shang Yishan's case, which was a monster forcibly produced by a demonized spirit seed, this second demonization, perhaps there would be a different problem. When he thought of this, Xiao Jin didn't hesitate and immediately set up a formation to search for Feng Shuilan's whereabouts in the imperial capital. Then, he followed Meng Qingyu to He Yao's location to capture Feng Shuilan. He Yao and the others were in the middle of capturing Feng Shuilan. Knowing that Xiao Jin was coming, they sent a message to Xiao Jin. Feng Shuilan had lost 50 pounds in a day. When she was discovered again, she had already become as thin as a bamboo pole. She had lost weight again. She could not control this kind of weight loss. It was as if she was obsessed with being thin. No matter how thin she was, she would feel that it was not enough. She would continue to look for him. Even Meng Qingyu was in disbelief. Since she's already slimmed down, why is she still continuing? Her awakening of this ability is a little redundant. Xiao Jin looked at the photo and found Feng Shuilan's whereabouts at the same time. He said, "Something's not right." Meng Qingyu asked, "What's wrong?" Xiao Jin said, "I can sense traces of a formation master." There was a formation master involved. Feng Shuilan was now hiding in a suburb of the imperial capital. He Yao and the others had already tracked her whereabouts. Xiao Jin and Meng Qingyu rushed over. Chapter 8:29. Feng Shuilan hid in a narrow corner. Her whole body was trembling, and she felt a little dizzy. Because she was too thin at this time, she kept losing weight. She knew that she was abnormally thin, but she couldn't stop the addictive pleasure. She used to be very fat, so fat that she couldn't lose weight at all. Dieting and exercising seemed to be too difficult for her. It wasn't that some people couldn't change, but they couldn't persevere. Feng Shuilan suffered the supercilious eyes and discrimination of others. She also wanted to lose weight, but she wanted to lose weight without any scruples, without any exercise. There was no rebound, just a little. In just a few days, her originally plump body was reduced to a pile of bones. Feng Shuilan pinched her arm and looked at the reflection of her bony figure in the dirty gutter. A pale and sickly smile appeared on her face. She finally lost weight. She finally became thin now. She was thinner than those female celebrities. No one would laugh at her. No one would laugh at her anymore. Even if her thin cheeks were starting to sink and her flesh couldn't support her facial features, looking as scary as a skeleton, she still felt that she was perfect. Just like her own demonization, her level of appreciation and pursuit of beauty had reached a kind of morbid extreme. The sound of footsteps suddenly came from outside, giving Feng Shuilan a big fright. She woke up from her self-infatuation and subconsciously looked outside. She knew that someone was catching her. She almost killed 2 people. But so what? They couldn't control themselves. They kept wanting to eat Feng Shuilan's cooking. They couldn't control themselves, and it had nothing to do with her. She hugged her arms and hid behind the trash can. She saw a long-legged beauty walk in. Her skin was extremely white, and the red dress that wrapped around her buttocks showed off her extreme beauty. Her devilish figure was the perfect figure that everyone pursued. She was undoubtedly a great beauty, and Feng Shuilan was familiar with her. Xiang Zhuojia, the latest beauty in the entertainment industry. Because of her beautiful appearance and perfect body, she quickly became popular on the internet within a year and became the perfect goddess in everyone's hearts. The moment Feng Shuilan saw her, she felt, no, she was still fat. She felt that Xiang Zhuojia's figure was still fleshy, which was far better than her current skinny body. She did not know why Xiang Zhuojia had appeared here, but when Xiang Zhuojia saw Feng Shuilan, a trace of disgust clearly flashed across her eyes. Her delicately drawn red lips gently opened as she softly spat out, "Truly disgusting." Feng Shuilan trembled because of her words and hid behind the trash can, not daring to go out. This was the deepest part of the alley where the trash cans were placed. The stench permeated the air, and only wanderers would come here. She was a big star who was famous all over the country. It seemed that she shouldn't be here. Xiang Zhuojia walked over. She held back her disgust and pulled out a pair of white velvet gloves from her backpack. After she put them on, she got ready to pull Feng Shuilan up. The moment Feng Shuilan wanted to run, it was as if she was pinned to the ground by something, unable to move. Xiang Zhuojia's eyes twinkled proudly. "Wanna run?" Just as she finished speaking, she suddenly felt that something was wrong. She turned around and saw a girl with calm eyes. Chapter 8:30. The girl's face was exquisite and impeccable. What was even more amazing was her calm demeanor, which could really be described as ethereal. Her long seaweed-like hair was like a perfect character from a comic book, impeccable. Xiang Zhuojia had been in the circle for so long, but she had never seen such a demeanor. Just looking at her made people jealous. The key was that she suddenly appeared here, which was somewhat unexpected. The girl only looked down at Xiang Zhuojia. What do you want to do? Xiang Zhuojia's heart rose with a touch of vigilance. I'm here to take my friend away.
Who are you?
You put a curse on her and say she's your friend? Xiao Jin's mouth evoked a smile. It's a bit unethical to have a friend like you. Xiang Zhuojia's pupils shrank. The fact that she was an array master was considered a secret. She didn't expect the person in front of her to see through it. Her face sank, and there was a trace of gloom on her bright face. Are you also a spiritual reader? Xiao Jin tilted his head and glanced at Feng Shuilan. She is now the target of the spirit group, and she will die in 2 days. Why do you want to take her away? I finally know why she can't control herself. You put a curse on her and used her to maintain your appearance and figure. This is a good business. The Feng family was not the only one who used others to do bad things. Xiang Zhuojia in front of him was obviously such a person. Xiao Jin didn't know her, but he had already seen that she carried Feng Shuilan's karma. She put a curse on Feng Shuilan. The energy absorbed by Feng Shuilan not only made her lose weight, but also fed Xiang Zhuojia. Xiang Zhuojia's face stiffened. She was one of the few stars in the entertainment circle who was really qualified to maintain the nature of a foodie. She had done many live broadcasts, and her characteristic was that she only ate and didn't get fat.
She really ate a lot.
Even her agent was amazed by her talent. Because of this, Xiang Zhuojia used this characteristic to attract a lot of fans. However, they would never have guessed how Xiang Zhuojia did it. Xiang Zhuojia subconsciously wanted to attack Xiao Jin. She quickly formed an array in her hand. Suddenly, the world around Xiao Jin seemed to change color. A thick gray smoke rushed toward Xiao Jin. The smoke seemed to turn into the shape of a skull. It opened its mouth and seemed to want to swallow Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin maintained his smile and didn't seem to do anything. When the skull rushed in front of Xiao Jin, it suddenly froze. Then, it turned around and rushed toward Xiang Zhuojia. Xiang Zhuojia did not expect that the array formation would backfire on her and immediately tried to block it in a flurry. When the thick smoke dissipated, Xiang Zhuojia opened her eyes. Feng Shuilan and the girl from before had disappeared, but she felt that she had undergone a very heavy change. She lowered her head and saw that her slender waist was visibly swollen as if it had been inflated. She couldn't hold it in anymore. She screamed, cast an array, and quickly returned to her villa. Xiao Jin caught Feng Shuilan. Seeing that she had lost so much weight, he handed her to Hiao, who was not far away. She only said lightly, keep her. She won't live for more than 2 days. Hiao looked at Feng Shuilan, who was as thin as a skeleton at this moment, and couldn't believe it. It's only been a few days, and she has become like this. Chapter 8:31. This is the ability to demonize. It's very strong, but the price to pay is also very high. Besides, she has been cursed. Xiao Jin asked directly, who is Xiang Zhuojia? Xiang Zhuojia? Hiao asked someone to bring Feng Shuilan back. Meng Qingyu said, isn't Xiang Zhuojia a very famous female celebrity recently? What's wrong? Xiao Jin said, it seems that the spirit group doesn't know about it. There are no recorded array masters. Xiang Zhuojia is an array master. Array master?
Hiao paused.
On the surface, the spirit group didn't know about the existence of array masters, so this matter was likely to be taken over by the array master organization. Hiao just wrote down this information and asked someone to investigate. After Hiao left, Meng Qingyu asked her, why did you mention Xiang Zhuojia just now? She's quite famous. She's a famous female celebrity who only eats and doesn't get fat. Her figure and appearance are perfect, and her fans are crazy. Many people like her very much.
No.
Xiao Jin said lightly, it's just that she was the one who cursed Feng Shuilan just now. Moreover, Xiang Zhuojia had an aura that she felt familiar with. She was an ordinary array master, but she did a perfect job of casting a curse on Feng Shuilan to change the karma and price. An ordinary array master would not be able to do that. Meng Qingyu gasped. Why do I feel that there are spiritual readers everywhere now? No wonder Xiang Zhuojia only eats and doesn't get fat. I even saw her eating high-calorie food when she was recording a show, but she didn't get fat at all. No wonder. Qiao Jin said, "Go back to school first." After letting Meng Qingyu go back, Qiao Jin started to track Xiang Zhuojia. She felt that there was something wrong with Xiang Zhuojia, so how could she let her go? She left a mark on her and knew where Xiang Zhuojia was with just a thought. Xiang Zhuojia had a house in the capital. She didn't often move around in the capital and only came back recently. After her popularity exploded, she had been participating in variety shows abroad and flying all over the world. She didn't have much time to stay in the capital. After returning to her high-end apartment building, Xiang Zhuojia was on the verge of breaking down. Her face and body were visibly swollen, but it was not inflated. Her body seemed to have grown fat, but in an instant, a double chin and a big belly appeared. Her beautiful figure disappeared, and in just a moment, she almost burst the dress she was wearing. Xiang Zhuojia was left with nothing but fear. She relied on her face to make a living, and with her figure, it was impossible for anything to go wrong. What was going on now? Even if she didn't bring Feng Shuilan back, this shouldn't have happened. Seeing a fat man's face in the mirror, Xiang Zhuojia screamed in horror. She couldn't accept her current state. Her dress was already torn. In order not to expose herself, she could only grab a blanket and drape it over her body. Trembling, she dialed a number. After 2 beeps, a deep and smooth male voice sounded naturally. "Hello, I'm busy right now and can't answer your call.
Please leave a message."
Mo Huan, Mo Huan. Xiang Zhuojia screamed, "Mo Huan, there's a problem with my formation. I'm suffering from a backlash. You said that it was impossible for this to happen, but now there's a problem. Where are you? I want to see you." Xiang Zhuojia was on the verge of collapse. Seeing all this, Qiao Jin frowned slightly. Mo Huan. Chapter 832. She seemed to have heard this name somewhere before. Mo Huan. That's right. Mu Xiangshan had mentioned this name when he was gossiping. However, he said it too quickly and just casually mentioned it. Mo Huan was one of Ho Wan's boyfriends. He also contacted Shang Iran to take revenge on Ji Sikai. Although he didn't know how Ji Sikai found out, Mo Huan should have run away, leaving Shang Iran to suffer Ji Sikai's anger.
Ho Wan was also involved now.
The Ho family and the Ji family were still arguing. This was a completely unrelated person who had inexplicably appeared. Even Xiang Zhuojia was calling his name now. Of course, it was also possible that they had the same name. The 2 people might not be the same person. Xiang Zhuojia was now in a state of collapse. Her body was still constantly swollen. She had been overeating for more than a year now, and now all of it had backfired. Her body should have been like this. Eating without gaining weight was all because someone else had taken care of it for her. Xiang Zhuojia couldn't accept her appearance at all. She kept going crazy in a room and even smashed all the mirrors. Qiao Jin took a few glances and lost interest in the crazy woman. He set up an array point on her body to ensure that he would be aware of any strange movements she made. Then, Qiao Jin called Song Yanqing. Now, he knew how to make use of Song Yanqing's ability. "Yanqing, I need you to help me investigate someone." Now that they were closer, Qiao Jin naturally called him Yanqing. Song Yanqing found it funny when he heard it. "Who do you need me to investigate?" Mo Huan, one of Ho Wan's boyfriends. When the name came out, Song Yanqing thought for a while. "I heard that Ji Sikai's accident was related to this Mo Huan. Why are you paying attention to him? Something interesting happened today. It might be related to him. My intuition tells me that there's something wrong with this person." Mo Huan had never appeared before. Qiao Jin also didn't have any way to contact him. Now that the other party had suddenly appeared, Qiao Jin naturally wanted to investigate. Song Yanqing immediately agreed. "No problem, I'll get someone to investigate." Qiao Jin replied, "All right." She then asked another child, "How is you and her mother now?" "They're fine. I've arranged for you to go to school now." Apart from Song Yanqing, You was the second spirit speaker that Xiao Jin had met by chance. From this, one could see how precious she was. Even Song Yanqing would take good care of them. He had already sent people to protect you and her son to ensure that they could live a normal life. That's good. Xiao Jin added, then I'll go abroad with you in 2 days. Song Yanqing chuckled softly. Well, I've already arranged it. You just have to wait. After hanging up the phone, Xiao Jin went to find Hiao again. She wanted to see Feng Shuolan. After all, people who had undergone a second demonization were too rare. Apart from the reason why Xiang Zhuojia had cursed her, there had to be something different. Feng Shuolan was locked up in the spirit group's prison. After the previous incident, the spirit group's vitality had been greatly damaged, and they were now resting. To Xiao Jin, who had saved the spirit group, she was now the spirit group's savior. Even if she wasn't a member of the spirit group, no one would interfere with her. She could do whatever she wanted. Who could stop her? When she saw Feng Shuolan, her extremely thin and weak state had already stopped. She just clung to the iron door of the cell and kept shouting, I'm so hungry, I'm so hungry. Chapter 8:33. Hiao stood beside Xiao Jin and said, she keeps saying that she's hungry, but she won't eat the food we give her. Hiao still felt some sympathy for Feng Shuolan. She had been discriminated against since she was young, and now that she was demonized, she was still so miserable. If she used the normal way, as long as she persevered, she would eventually lose weight. However, some people were born with poor self-control and would always want to take shortcuts. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a group of manufacturers selling fake weight loss pills. Feng Shuolan took a shorter shortcut, which was to use her ability to make others eat less. Xiao Jin said softly, she doesn't want to eat herself. She needs others to eat. Hiao was stunned. Like the 2 victims in the hospital? Xiao Jin nodded. Hiao sighed. The hospital said that the 2 victims' conditions have stabilized, but they kept saying that they want to eat. They won't eat the food sent by the hospital. Now I understand what's going on. Xiao Jin said, Feng Shuolan's ability is to transform this kind of appetite. She can intensify her ability into food. If others eat the food she gives them, they won't be able to control themselves. The difference is how much Feng Shuolan gives them. The faster she loses weight, the more she gives them. If others eat it, they will become addicted and can't control themselves. When they can't gain any more weight, they will die from overeating. Hiao. This ability was too strange and cruel. Hearing this, Feng Shuolan's eyes flashed and she quickly shouted, I'm hungry. I'm really hungry. Please help me eat something, help me eat something, she begged and shouted at Xiao Jin and Hiao outside. Her tone sounded very pitiful. Hiao felt a chill down her spine. Feng Shuolan, if you knew this would happen, why did you do it in the first place? Your method not only harms yourself, but also others. Why do you have to think about losing weight? You can choose a safer method. As long as you exercise and diet, you will definitely be able to lose weight. The spirit group's prison was special and different from ordinary ones. The outside was like a layer of transparent glass. Sounds could be heard, but it was basically impossible to open. This was because although it was made of ordinary glass, it had been strengthened by an array formation master to a degree of hardness. Even a spiritual reader would not be able to break through. Hearing this, Feng Shuolan's tears flowed uncontrollably. I can't take it anymore. I'm too tired. It's too difficult. I can't take it anymore. She was too fat. She once went to the gym to sign up, but she couldn't even last 2 days. She really couldn't endure that kind of hardship. However, if you said that she had no self-control, she was able to demonize such an ability. If this willpower was converted into a proper way to lose weight, he had lost weight a long time ago. I'm so envious. You guys are so good-looking and beautiful. Feng Shuolan just looked at Xiao Jin with unconcealable envy in her eyes. Look, you're so beautiful. You were born this beautiful. You won't understand. No. You're still fat. You're not skinny enough. You need to lose weight. You need to lose weight. At this point, Feng Shuilan's tone had already become somewhat sharp. Xiao Jin's figure wasn't the best, but it was perfect. However, in Feng Shuilan's eyes, a perfect figure meant that there was still meat on it, but it was not skinny enough. Xiao Jin looked at her silently. Then he shook his head. It's already hopeless. Because of some wrong judgments, Feng Shuilan had ultimately harmed herself. Chapter 834. He Yao and Xiao Jin walked outside, and He Yao asked her in a low voice, "What do you mean by her second demonization?" "I guess it has something to do with the spell cast by Xiangzhuijia." Xiao Jin pondered. Xiangzhuijia must have been watching her these 2 days. Otherwise, I would have been able to tell when I saw the spell cast on her. She looked at He Yao curiously. "How do you monitor people's?" He Yao said, "I'm not the one in charge of monitoring. That person has already been punished. With such a huge mistake, he would definitely be punished. Otherwise, 2 people would have been killed." That's Xiangzhuijia. He Yao took out her phone. "Although I can't investigate the matter of the array master, I found some things about her before she entered the entertainment industry." He Yao showed her the information. Her grandfather used to smuggle out of the country, but he got American citizenship. Xiangzhuijia should be Chinese. We couldn't find any information about her before, so she came back later. According to our investigation, Xiangzhuijia used to be very fat. She showed Xiangzhuijia's old photos, and her facial features resembled Xiangzhuijia's. She was as fat as Feng Shuilan. In the past, Xiangzhuijia was also a 200 kilograms fat person. It's not hard to find these photos, and her fans know about it. However, she said that she lost weight by working out, which conflicted with her image as a foodie. We know that a person who lost weight by working out can overeat and not get fat. Otherwise, wouldn't she be slapping herself in the face? More importantly, her fans did believe her, and she didn't get fat from overeating. We checked and found that she didn't vomit. Since you said that she's an array master, I understand now. Xiao Jin said that array masters could do many things that spiritual psyche masters couldn't. Xiao Jin looked at He Yao thoughtfully. She used to live in America? Do you know where she studied? School? Of course, we have both. We've checked the information on the surface. She graduated from Stanford and is a real straight-A student. The information that He Yao and the others had given her had already stated this clearly. Perhaps it was a coincidence, but Xiao Jin really did see a photo. In that photo, it was a photo of Xiangzhuijia who was smiling shyly and a young man. The man was wearing gold-rimmed glasses, and his face was very handsome. He looked very much like the so-called refined scum. He was wearing a suit, and his expression was cold, showing a sense of abstinence. He had a huaxia face, and his eyes were dark and deep. However, there seemed to be a strange smile on his face, which looked a little dangerous. Xiao Jin's gaze was fixed on the man, and she was a little dazed. She pointed at the man in the photo and asked, "Who is this?" "What?" He Yao glanced at it and felt a little strange. Why didn't I see it when I was checking? This person should be Xiangzhuijia's teacher. She quickly found the information and told Xiao Jin. Found it. This person used to be the youngest professor at Stanford. He's an absolute super genius and is also Chinese. He taught many people, including Xiangzhuijia. He's quite famous, but he disappeared 5 years ago and no one has found him until now. Xiao Jin said softly, "What's his name?" He Yao said, "His surname is Mo. His name is Mo Huan." Chapter 835. Xiao Jin seemed to be deep in thought. She felt that there was something wrong with Mo Huan that she couldn't quite put her finger on. So this was Ho Wan's boyfriend? She took a closer look and suddenly had a strange feeling. It wasn't that she looked down on Ho Wan, but she felt that a man like him wouldn't agree to Ho Wan's romantic promise. She couldn't describe this strange feeling, but it meant that something wasn't right. Is it him? The person she had been keeping an eye on for so long had finally appeared? If it was her sworn enemy, she would have sensed it immediately. But now, she couldn't make an accurate judgment with just a photo. She could only be sure that there was something wrong with this Mo Huan. So far, he had only appeared in the mouths of the people around him and had never appeared in person. It seemed that she had to ask Ji Sikai how the car accident happened.
Who is it?
Hearing Xiao Jin's words, Hiao felt a little strange. Do you know him? This Mo Huan was indeed unforgettable. Moreover, he was the youngest professor and a super genius. With such good looks, he should have been famous around the world long ago. It was just that she didn't expect him to be so low-key. I'm not sure. Xiao Jin replied. I'm going to ask about something. If you have any information about him, you can provide it to me. Hiao, you're not investigating Xiang Zhuojia? Xiao Jin. I'll keep an eye on Xiang Zhuojia. Hiao. Okay. Since the big shot was personally taking action, they didn't have to worry about it. When Xiao Jin did things, she became a person of action now that she knew some information. 2 days ago, she went to the Ji family's house. Now, she called Ji Pingon and said that she wanted to meet Ji Sikai. Ji Pingon was a little puzzled, but he still passed on Xiao Jin's message to Ji Sikai. Because Xiao Jin didn't have Ji Sikai's phone number, Ji Sikai naturally agreed. They didn't meet at the Ji family's main residence, but at a golf club. Ji Sikai was currently having fun there. When Xiao Jin was brought in, he had just waved his club and hit a beautiful ball. The people around him were cheering for him, and now that he had taken over the Ji clan, other than the harsh coldness in his eyes, he seemed to be in high spirits. There was nothing more satisfying than being in power. Seeing that Xiao Jin had come, he put down his golf club and sat lazily on the side. He pointed to the seat next to him. You actually came to find me. Let me guess why. Xiao Jin didn't let him waste too many brain cells. He asked directly, was your car accident related to someone called Mo Huan? Ji Sikai narrowed his eyes. Why are you suddenly asking about this? No matter how I look at it, it can't be linked to you. Didn't Hoan break up with your brother long ago? It's not like I'm implicated. I'm curious. How did you find out that it was Mo Huan? Ji Sikai's smile was a little cold. Do you know him? Or are you here to plead for mercy? Xiao Jin repeated. I don't know him. I'm just curious. Ji Sikai paused for a moment, but still said, Zhang Yiran said it, and the confession of Ho Wan's other boyfriend. Xiao Jin frowned slightly. Seeing her expression, Ji Sikai sneered. Zhang Yiran said that it was Mo Huan who found him. I don't care whether it was him or not. This Mo Huan never appeared from the beginning to the end. Even Hoan said that she barely saw him a few times a year. But the idea of revenge was indeed proposed by him to Mo Huan. Chapter 836. Ji Sikai said lazily, someone who's trying to stir up trouble behind the scenes? Xiao Jin.
Oh.
In other words, Mo Huan had indeed never appeared. His existence only appeared in Ho Wan's mouth and the monk's mouth. It seemed that he might as well ask Ho Wan directly. Xiao Jin nodded.
Got it.
Thank you. Her tone was calm and polite, which made Ji Sikai a little uncomfortable. You're asking me this because of someone who has nothing to do with you? Is there anything else? Xiao Jin, no. Ji Sikai's smile deepened, and his gloominess grew stronger. I'm still your brother. Xiao Jin, I'm very far away. I'm not a member of the Ji family. Ji Sikai. Seeing Xiao Jin leave as calmly as she had come, Ji Sikai sneered. Xiao Jin asked Ho Wan to meet up. It was on the top floor of the building where she and Mu Qiji had their first blind date. Ho Wan wasn't as high-spirited as before when they met this time. She looked a little haggard. When she saw Xiao Jin, her smile was very forced. I can't think of any reason why you're looking for me. Xiao Jin was very straightforward. She ordered a cup of coffee and stirred it with a spoon. I'm just curious how you know Mo Huan. Mo Huan. Hearing his name, Ho Wan's expression changed. Do you know him? I don't know him. I just heard from others that he used to be a professor at Stanford and disappeared 5 years ago. But you're his girlfriend, or rather, he's one of your boyfriends. I'm curious how you two met. Ho-won didn't seem to want to talk about Mo Hwan. Miss Chiao, I don't seem to have any reason to tell you. Chiao Jin nodded. I know, so I'll ask you directly. If you don't want to answer, I won't force you. I was the one who asked you out, so this meal is on me. Ho-won paused for a moment. She was a little depressed. Why do you want to know about him? Chiao Jin, I'm curious. I met him 2 years ago when I went abroad. When Ho-won mentioned Mo Hwan, her emotions were also unstable. I don't know how to tell you this. In fact, even though he's my boyfriend, we only see each other a few times a year. He's very busy. He said that he's busy with his research and basically doesn't come home. We usually keep in touch by phone. Chiao Jin propped up his chin. Does he know about your other boyfriends? Ho-won was silent for a moment, and then she said, I know. Couples should be honest with each other, right? I made it clear when I met him, and he didn't object. However, there was something that Ho-won did not say. Sometimes, not objecting didn't mean that they didn't mind, but they didn't like it. The only person Ho-won couldn't see through was Mo Hwan. In the few times she had met this man, she had never seen the love in his eyes for her. His indifference was obvious. However, she couldn't bear to leave him. He was a man with a very fatal charm. Even Ho-won couldn't escape. Ho-won felt that perhaps she was one of the women who had fallen for Mo Hwan's charm. She didn't even know if Mo Hwan really had other girlfriends. They only saw each other a few times a year. Just the time alone was enough for Mo Hwan to have countless women outside.
She was always afraid to ask.
She could be righteous with other boyfriends, but she couldn't be strong with Mo Hwan. Chapter 837. What was the saying on the internet? Young people really knew how to play. People in this era really knew how to play. If you want to know more about Mo Hwan from me, I'll have to disappoint you. Ho-won pursed her lips. I actually don't know him at all. I don't even know where he lives in America. I don't even know which country he's in now. If you're asking me because of Ji Sekai, I can understand. After all, Ji Sekai is your brother. She thought that Chiao Jin was looking for her for this reason. I don't know why Mo Hwan suggested this to Shang Yuran. I also don't know how they discussed it. When it happened, it was already too late. Shang Yuran was caught by Ji Sekai. He said that Mo Hwan asked him to do this. However, since then, I haven't been able to contact Mo Hwan. Ho-won covered her face and felt a little defeated. I didn't know that they would do such a thing. Chiao Jin, sometimes it wasn't a good thing to have more boyfriends. Look, Ho-won was still the scapegoat for causing trouble in private. Recently, even Chiao Jin knew that the Ji family made life difficult for the Ho family. Ho-won had to take the blame because of this. How could the Ho family be nice to her? This was the first time she had disagreements with her boyfriends because of this. Looking at Ho-won's expression, Chiao Jin also advised her. Sometimes, you should give up when you have to. According to Ho-won, Mo Hwan was more like a troublemaker. It was obvious that he didn't take Ho-won seriously. If he did, he wouldn't have left Ho-won alone to deal with this matter. Ho-won understood, but she couldn't figure it out. She looked at Chiao Jin and could only smile with a pale face. I chose this, so I naturally have to bear the consequences. Seeing that she understood, Chiao Jin didn't say anything else. After meeting Ho-won, Chiao Jin wasn't in a hurry. She was going to go abroad with Song Yanqing soon. Whether she could get the next clue would depend on the overseas side. This Mo Hwan was indeed mysterious. No matter how He Yao and the others investigated, they couldn't get any more information about him. His public information had disappeared 5 years ago. Ho-won was unable to provide any more useful information. 2 days later, Chiao Jin packed up and prepared to go abroad with Song Yanqing. Muzillian saw her carrying a suitcase and came over cheekily. If you don't mind, take me with you. Xiao Fei immediately rushed over and beat him with a feather duster. He scolded as he beat him. The two of them are traveling abroad. What are you doing there? If you want to go, then go alone. Don't come with me. Don't you have any shame? You only know how to hit me every day. If you hit me silly, you'll lose a son, do you know that? Muzillian jumped up and down after being hit. You only know how to hit me at home every day. What will happen to my reputation when I go out? You vicious mother. Xiao Fei said, Today I'll show you what a vicious heart is. Xiao Fei was about to beat him hard. Mu Jinming, who was about to go to work, said, Do you want me to ask the driver to send you? Xiao Jin said softly, He will come to pick me up. Mu Jinming was silent for a moment. Okay, have a safe trip. He went to work. Xiao Jin said goodbye to Xiao Fei and was about to go out. Xiao Fei was a little worried. Have a safe trip. Zillion asked, Which country are you going to? I'll see if it's on the way. However, Xiao Jin ignored him and went out with her suitcase. Chapter 838. Song Yanqing had already brought the chauffeur to pick her up at about the time they agreed on. He was wearing a white turtleneck sweater, beige trousers, and gold-rimmed glasses. There was a charming gentleness in the spring breeze. There was a laptop on his lap, as if he was busy with something. Dan got out of the car and put Xiao Jin's suitcase in the trunk. After Xiao Jin got in the car, she saw that he was still busy, so she said, Didn't you say that you would go after you were done? It's just a few small things. I'll settle it on the way. He saw that Xiao Jin was wearing thin clothes. The weather had started to turn cold recently, but he was still wearing a sweater and a coat. Xiao Jin was only wearing a white hoodie and jeans. She looked very fresh and simple. He frowned slightly. When Xiao Jin sat in the car, he asked, Aren't you cold? Xiao Jin, no. Song Yanqing. Song Yanqing reached out to touch her palm. Seeing that it was warm, he didn't say anything. Xiao Jin, your hand is cold. Song Yanqing. I've always been like this. Although he said that, he still held Xiao Jin's palm and felt that her fingertips were slender and soft. Xiao Jin looked at what he was busy with and glanced at it curiously. After making sure that it was something she couldn't understand, she looked away. After Adan got in the car, he saw that the young master was holding Xiao Jin's hand. He hated his eyes for being so nosy and having to take another look. If he had just driven properly, this wouldn't have happened, right? Heartache, loneliness, and coldness. They drove all the way to the airport. Now that Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing were together, Dan was very relieved. Therefore, Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing went abroad alone. However, Tong was still a little depressed. Young master, this is the first time you've gone abroad alone. If there's anything, you must call me immediately. He sounded extremely worried. Xiao Jin said, I'm here. What are you afraid of? Are you afraid that he will be sold by human traffickers? Zai said with tears in his eyes, I'm just worried that you'll have to transfer flights after you get off the plane. When you get there, you'll have to take the bus several times. I've already arranged everything, but I really can't find a hotel with good conditions. I can only let young master suffer. Young master has never been tortured like this in his life. Xiao Jin. Tisk, Song Yanqing laughed and said, It's not like I haven't been to these places before. Don't worry too much. I'll be back with Xiao Jin soon. Wei could only nod. The reason why Xiao Jin didn't tell Zillion where they were going was because the place they were going to was a little remote. It was a small country in Eastern Europe.
It was pitifully small on the map.
There were no direct flights and they had to transfer flights. The last place Wan Yunhu appeared was there. According to the information, the security there wasn't very good. Therefore, Zai was especially worried about Song Yanqing. They sat on the plane for more than 20 hours. Once they got off the plane, they had to take the bus again. If Song Yanqing wasn't in good health now, the Song family probably wouldn't have allowed him to come. Especially on the way, Xiao Jin saw a huge banner outside the local shopping mall. It was Ferdinand's advertisement. Ferdinand had disappeared from the scene of late. However, some of his previous advertisements were still running. He just announced to the public that he was sick and couldn't appear in public for a while. When Xiao Jin saw it, he sighed. What a pity. Chapter 839. Song Yanqing tilted his head and saw the huge poster of Ferdinand hanging on the wall. His eyes dimmed, but he still smiled kindly. What's a pity? Is it a pity for him? Of course not. It's a pity. Xiao Jin touched her chin. It's just that stars make too much money. Seeing her touching her chin, Song Yanqing couldn't help but poke her cheek. Then why didn't you enter the entertainment industry and become a star? With your qualifications, it's not difficult to become popular. Xiao Jin shook her head. I don't like too many people paying attention to me. Although stars made money, they were also busy. Mo Jiang said that she was still in the middle of filming, but her manager had already made arrangements for the rest of her career. She would be extremely busy in the coming days. Xiao Jin didn't have the time to run around. Really? Fortunately, you didn't go. Song Yanqing curled his lips and stroked Xiao Jin's cheek with his thumb. I don't like too many people paying attention to you either. It was hard not to like someone like Xiao Jin once you got to know her too much. Xiao Jin just glanced at him and didn't say anything. They had already arrived at the main city of this small country. It was rumored that the security wasn't very good. On the surface, it was still a very prosperous country, and there were many tourists around. Then they came to the hotel that Yi said wasn't very good. Xiao Jin? A 5-star hotel wasn't very good? Although this 5-star hotel wasn't as luxurious as some of the super hotels in China and had been around for some time, its appearance and decoration were still acceptable. How could the conditions not be very good? Xiao Jin had questions, but Xiao Jin didn't ask. Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing, the two Huaxia people, attracted a lot of attention when they entered the local area. The main reason was that the two people had very special temperaments. Song Yanqing held Xiao Jin's hand and went all the way to apply for a room card and other information. It was worth mentioning that Xiao Jin had only booked a suite. He asked the hotel staff in the local language, then turned to Xiao Jin and gently explained, this is the best suite, but there are 2 rooms inside. You and I will stay in one, or I will leave the suite for you and get the other one. Xiao Jin shook his head. Just 1 room. She wasn't so pretentious that she couldn't even accept a suite. When Song Yanqing turned around, there was still a faint smile on his lips. After checking in, he pulled Xiao Jin upstairs. In the hotel room, Xiao Jin put his luggage aside and said softly, is this where Wan Yunhu was last seen? It's a bit far from here. It's in another city, but we can drive there directly. The main reason is that if we go there directly, we'll be too conspicuous. Song Yanqing looked at Xiao Jin and found it funny. You're in a hurry to deal with this matter when you're overseas? The scenery here isn't bad either. We haven't been here before, so we can walk around. Maybe we'll discover something else. Xiao Jin, I want to walk around, but I'm afraid someone won't let us do as we wish. I can already sense that an array master is following us. She was an array master and could sense that something was wrong when she set up the array. She reacted faster than Song Yanqing. When Song Yanqing heard this, he frowned slightly and followed Xiao Jin's gaze to the huge floor-to-ceiling window in the room. This hotel had been renovated for a long time and could be considered a local landmark. However, it was only a dozen stories high. When Song Yanqing looked out of the window, he did sense that there was something wrong with the hotel's surroundings. Chapter 840. If it's not someone from the local area, then it can only be the early family. Song Yanqing's tone was cold. The last time I came abroad alone, they sent people to follow me. Xiao Jin asked, early lost so much, but they still followed you? Song Yanqing curled his lips. Maybe they already know about what happened to Ferdinand. It's not strange that they suspect me now. They still haven't caught the culprit in Joanna's case. Of course they won't be satisfied. They had been monitoring each other with early, but compared to before, early's style of doing things was much more low-key. They lost a group of people and Milo was still missing. Of course, they didn't dare to act rashly. However, they were especially concerned about Song Yanqing coming abroad. Xiao Jin nodded. The two of them were only paying attention to early's surveillance. They were here to look for other clues. Wan Yunhu had to have a reason for appearing here. If it wasn't to hide, then it was to meet someone. Song Yanqing still had to do his own things in the hotel. When night fell, He said that he had booked a famous local restaurant and brought Xiao Jin to eat dinner. The two of them were holding hands. They weren't accompanied by anyone and looked like a normal couple. However, Xiao Jin still felt that there were a few sneaky people behind them. These people weren't formation masters. They were just ordinary people. However, compared to ordinary people, they had more lethality. They had guns. Guns weren't banned in other countries, and this country was one of them. It was chaotic here, but if they returned to the hotel early, they would be fine. However, a few big, white men followed Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing. It was obvious that they had their eyes on something else. When the two of them came, they were wearing expensive clothes and didn't have anyone accompanying them. They looked like a weak Chinese couple, so they had some ideas that they shouldn't have. While they were eating in the restaurant, Song Yanqing was holding a knife and fork through the glass window. He looked out of the window elegantly, with a bewitching smile on his lips.
What a pity.
I wanted to bring you around, but with them here, it seems that tonight's plan is going to be ruined. The men, who had been near them, pretended to be idling. If it weren't for Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing's sharp senses, most people wouldn't have noticed that they were being watched. In the eyes of other countries, the Huaxia people were rich and generous. Every year when they were traveling abroad, no matter which country they were in, there would be many accidents. Xiao Jin looked at the group of people outside and smiled. This is the first time I've encountered something like this. What is this? The legendary kidnapping Song Yanqing laughed and said, "Only you think it's fun." Xiao Jin said, "Those array masters are also guarding nearby. If things get chaotic later, will they take advantage of the chaos to attack?" Song Yanqing was deep in thought. "I'm not sure, but there's a high chance that it will happen. It would be best if they could take advantage of the chaos to get rid of the two of them." When it was about time, Song Yanqing put down his knife and fork. "Are you full? Let's go back to the hotel." Xiao Jin nodded and got up to leave with Song Yanqing. When they walked out of the hotel, the few white men who were wandering around exchanged glances with each other and began to surround them, following behind them. At the same time on the street, two cars began to move. Chapter 841. They quietly followed behind Song Yanqing and Xiao Jin. There were quite a lot of people on this street. They could even see quite a number of tourists from Huaxia. However, at this moment, the two cars behind them suddenly sped up and rushed toward Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing. The people behind them also rushed up. It seemed that they were planning to kidnap the two of them. Since they dared to do such a thing here, they must have some confidence and something to rely on. Ordinary people would definitely not be able to react in time. However, at this moment, it was as if there was a sudden power outage on the entire street. The street lamps were all switched off, and the surrounding buildings also started to lose their light. The few robbers who were about to rush up felt that everything before them turned black. When a person's vision was suddenly stimulated, they would temporarily lose their vision. Countless panicked cries rang out in the surroundings. In this chaotic moment, Xiao Jin sensed that someone was indeed using a formation. They were charging toward her and Song Yanqing. She clicked her tongue, and red dots flashed in her eyes. In an instant, the entire world was locked down by a butterfly. The cars that were approaching Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing were pushed away by a huge force. At this moment, Xiao Jin suddenly grabbed Song Yanqing's wrist and said in a low voice, "There's something wrong with someone." There was an even more powerful force that was charging toward the two of them. This formation was not formed in a short period of time. It seemed to have been formed by the combined efforts of many people. It transformed into a huge demon, rolling and roaring as it charged toward Xiao Jin. No one else could see such a scene. The huge red butterfly in midair flapped its wings and let out a rare sharp cry. It was as if it could directly shake one's heart. It turned around, and the red line in the sky descended. It pierced through a thick fog and accurately landed in a small, white house in the distance. Song Yanqing also said in a low voice, "I saw it." He grabbed Xiao Jin's hand and remained silent for a few seconds. Then he said, "There are 3 formation masters. Wan Yunhu is also among them." Xiao Jin laughed. It's an unexpected gain. In the blink of an eye, the two figures disappeared from this world. When all the lights were restored, the panicked crowd looked around in astonishment. Two white cars had been pushed to the middle of the road, and a group of equally confused robbers looked left and right, but they couldn't find Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing. Not far away, a fat Caucasian foreigner who was eating potato chips stared at them. She didn't even know that her chips had fallen to the ground. All the lights suddenly went out, but it didn't mean that everyone couldn't see. He just saw Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing disappear on the spot. They disappeared on the spot. Ah! It took a minute for the fat white man to realize what he had seen. He covered his head and screamed, "My God, my Jesus, what did I see? What did I see? Someone just disappeared. My God, did you see that?" At this moment, in a small white house in the distance, there were 3 people sitting on the sofa, with their eyes closed. They didn't see any movement for a long time. When they opened their eyes, they saw a young lady's long hair drooping down in front of them. A pair of calm eyes were looking at them. The exquisite and seductive woman shivered and almost screamed out loud. She had always been the one scaring others. Today, she was so frightened that she almost screamed out loud. Wanyan Yunhu, who soon realized that she had embarrassed herself, suddenly reacted and opened her eyes wide. Chapter 842. It was naturally Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing in front of her. The two of them had not expected that Wanyan Yunhu would make a move the moment she hit here. Wanyan Yunhu had not used the formation during the day. This meant that she had received news that Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing would arrive here at night. Looking at Wanyan Yunhu's pale face, Xiao Jin smiled and looked up. "What are you afraid of? You're a formation master. Why are you so scared?" Wanyan Yunhu's lips trembled. Who wouldn't be scared when you appeared like a ghost? Song Yanqing stood at the side and sized up this simple house. It was a very low-profile house. It was a place where ordinary residents lived. There were 2 foreign women beside Wanyan Yunhu. However, when they saw Xiao Jin, they were much more straightforward. They immediately screamed to express their fear. They were formation masters, but they had never seen someone like Xiao Jin. However, Song Yanqing glanced at them when they screamed. The faint smile on his lips seemed to have a great killing power. It blocked their throats, causing them to be unable to make a single sound. Instead, they felt a suffocating pain. The 2 of them covered their throats, out of reflex. Wanyan Yunhu looked at Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing and blinked. There seemed to be a drop of sweat on her forehead, and she found it difficult to speak. How did you find me?" That person had promised that no one would discover this place. She knew about Xiao Jin in the past, but she had never met Xiao Jin face to face. However, she recognized Xiao Jin and knew that this girl was very mysterious. According to the news from China, Shang Yishan, who they had created, had been dealt with by her. Back then, even Wanyan Yunhu had admitted that she had no way to deal with her. She was afraid that the matter would be exposed and had run away. However, Xiao Jin had dealt with Shang Yishan. Now that she saw Xiao Jin face to face, Wanyan Yunhu's pupils contracted. "Is it strange how I found it?" Xiao Jin said softly. "Someone set up a powerful formation here to block my detection. As long as you don't make a move, I won't discover you. So, why did you make a move?" Someone had set up a powerful restriction here. Xiao Jin could already feel a familiar aura from this restriction. She was very sure that her sworn enemy had appeared here before. After so many years, there were still traces left behind. Wanyan Yunhu's lips trembled. Why did she do it? He was the one who asked for it. She blinked hard and lowered her eyes weakly after a while. "If you want to do it, then do it. I was the one who planned Shang Yishan's incident. I knew I wouldn't be able to live after doing such a wrong thing." She quickly accepted her fate in front of Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin laughed. Song Yanqing sized up Wanyan Yunhu from the side. "You admitted it so quickly. It seems that you can't afford to offend the person behind this. We know that you can't do what you want to do, with Shang Yishan alone. How long have you been working with this person? Wan Yunhu said, I don't know what you're talking about. Song Yanqing said, if you didn't know, would you have run away and come overseas to find this person? Wan Yunhu looked at Song Yanqing and sneered. We didn't expect that there would be such a powerful person like you hiding in the capital. Song Yanqing smiled. There are many things that you didn't expect. Chapter 843. That's how it is. Xiao Jin lowered her body slightly and looked at Wan Yunhu. You learn the method of using demonic spiritual seeds to catalyze the transformation of demonic spiritual psyche masters from this person. He definitely has his reasons for doing this. It's probably not the first time you've used the spirit group as an experiment. What's the deal you've made with him? In fact, Xiao Jin knew that Wan Yunhu had no intention of speaking. Therefore, after she finished speaking, she quickly summoned the rule formation and forcefully pulled Wan Yunhu into the rules. She then summoned the memory reversal formation and prepared to search her memories. However, Wan Yunhu immediately let out a painful shriek. Waves of black flames rose from her body as if she was on fire. It was as if she was being burned. Her memories were in a mess. Xiao Jin pulled her hand back, lowered her gaze, and said, restrictions have been placed on her. However, she was certain that this person was working together with the spirit group. Indeed, they were sworn enemies. It was impossible for other formation masters to have such an ability. Xiao Jin did not find it strange that she was unable to search her memories. She guessed that Wan Yunhu had probably been instructed to do so. Song Yanqing gave it some thought. Do you need my help? He saw that Wan Yunhu's body had started to tremble intensely and convulse in pain. The two formation masters beside her were scared out of their wits. They did not know why such a problem had appeared on Wan Yunhu's body. Xiao Jin shook her head. He has placed a restriction. Wan Yunhu will definitely die. I can't find her memories, but I can confirm that this matter is related to him. As long as the clues were opened, she would have traces to follow. Xiao Jin gave it some thought. It's a pity that we don't have enough spiritual seeds now. If she had enough spiritual seeds, she would immediately be able to use the rules to forcefully find the other party and get rid of him. There's no hurry for this matter. It's a good thing that we have a clue. Song Yanqing looked at Wan Yunhu, who was trembling intensely. Should we get someone to send her back? Xiao Jin shook her head. It's too late. After saying this, she grabbed Song Yanqing and retreated. Wan Yunhu screamed once again, and black flames kept coming out from her body. In the end, there was still a burst of flames coming out from her body, instantly burning her body into ashes. It was absolutely terrifying. The two array masters at the side were so scared that they hugged each other and looked at Xiao Jin in horror. They were like ordinary array masters. They didn't know anything and didn't have enough experience. Xiao Jin stared at them and suddenly sneered. You did a pretty good job. Song Yanqing looked down at her. So, are you sure this is the person you're looking for? Not only is he sure, he's also telling me something else. Song Yanqing frowned. Tell you what? His instincts told him that something bad was going to happen. Xiao Jin's tone was calm. He's telling me that his life is tied to many people's. Even if I find him, many people will die with him when he dies. Among them, there were many innocent people. Wan Yunhu and the two array masters were the warning that had been sent to her. Song Yanqing's gaze sank slightly. Don't array masters have to involve karma when they do such things? Xiao Jin smiled. That's right. He's probably leaving a way out for himself. His sworn enemy had also thought that there would be a day where he could only drag others in front of him to block Xiao Jin. But he definitely doesn't know that I've got my hands on the rules array point. The rules array point was a good thing. Chapter 844. How long do you need to find him using the rule array points? Xiao Jin said, many lives are involved in his body. He's been nurturing for a long time and has to be removed. The demonic spiritual seeds that need to be sacrificed are not enough. She was a powerful array master, but so was the other party. He also used karma to do things. Xiao Jin could ignore karma and kill him, but it did not mean that he could not think of other methods. Transferring one's karma to others was letting others die in one's place. Xiao Jin could not determine how many people he had planted karma on. Wan Yunhu was one, but she was definitely not the only one. Also, I told you about the Rakshasa realm. Xiao Jin looked at the pile of ashes left behind by Wan Yunhu's corpse and seemed to be deep in thought. If he chooses to cooperate with the Rakshasa realm, he might get more benefits. Could the Rakshasa realm have a motive? Song Yanqing squatted down as well. His deep eyes carefully sized up Wan Yunhu, who had been burned to ashes. The Rakshasa world doesn't have frequent activities. I don't think it's as simple as them wanting to create demon spiritualists. They might be plotting something else, but they are unable to do so for now. As he said this, he looked at Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin nodded. That's the most important point. Maybe they are thinking of a way to break through the boundary between the two worlds, but it's too difficult. Song Yanqing was also thinking. When he was unconscious and sleeping, he felt that he was trapped in the Rakshasa realm.
He could always feel something.
Other than the pain of his soul being torn apart, they always said that he would return. But he was very sure that he was not from the Rakshasa realm. Xiao Jin was also sure that he was not. The demons of the Rakshasa realm could not cross over. Then why would they say that? Unless it was really as Xiao Jin guessed. He had a story that involved the Rakshasa realm. No matter what, I won't let them come over, no matter what the price is. When Xiao Jin said this, he seemed much calmer. Song Yanqing suddenly chuckled. I thought you wouldn't care about these things. With great power comes great responsibility. I just don't care about the affairs of ordinary people. She was bestowed with powerful abilities by karma. Although she was suppressed, she was also protected. There were some things that had to be shouldered. If it was really as she guessed, with her standing in this position, if there was a problem in the Rakshasa realm, then the only ones who could stop it would be her and Song Yanqing. However, she had to look on the bright side. She hadn't even recovered her memories yet. There were no obvious movements in the Rakshasa realm either. Song Yanqing nodded. There were still 2 array masters in the room who were watching them discuss in horror. They didn't understand Huaxiao language and didn't know what Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing were talking about. Wan Yunhu had died in front of them. Naturally, they thought that it was Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing who had done it. Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing only knocked the 2 array masters unconscious. Then they took photos and submitted them to Zhongli Painting. If these array masters were not from an official organization, then it would be more troublesome to find where they came from. When Zhongli Painting saw that they had managed to find traces of Wan Yunhu overseas, she was a little surprised. She checked the information on the 2 formation masters that Xiao Jin had given her, and she immediately got back the answer that she had expected. These 2 array masters are not from our official organization. I also asked the array master organizations overseas. They said that they don't have these 2 people. Chapter 845. In this world, not all spiritualists would join the spirit group. However, most of the people they found would be recorded or monitored. If there was no information, they would be fish that had escaped the net. This wasn't good news for them. Zhongli Painting asked Xiao Jin, "Where did you find Wan Yunhu? Where is she now? Can you escort her back?" Xiao Jin only told her that they had found Wan Yunhu, but he didn't tell her what her current situation was. Hearing this, Xiao Jin stared at the pile of ashes on the ground. I'm afraid it'll be a little difficult. Zhongli Painting didn't understand.
Why?
Did you also encounter a troublesome situation and can't do it? Xiao Jin said, I also can't turn a pile of ashes back into a person. Zhongli Painting was speechless. She was a little shocked. She's dead. She died so easily? Wan Yunhu was one of the higher-ups who had led the matter of the demonized spiritual seed. She was now hated by the spiritualist organization. Now, whenever she was mentioned, they wanted her to come back and die. However, they didn't expect her to die overseas. And she died so easily, killed by Xiao Jin? Xiao Jin obviously wouldn't take the blame for this. He didn't let Zhong Li Peining ask and directly said, Wanyan Yunhu is working with someone else. I don't know who this other person is for now. I will spread the news. She knew that they were sworn enemies, but she couldn't tell Zhong Li Peining directly. This was because the spirit group couldn't interfere in their battle. However, they could help her investigate. Song Yanqing whispered in her ear, let them work with a foreign spiritualist organization. China might not be the only country with problems. There were so many people overseas, and there were countless demonized spiritualists. Would there be no problems with foreign organizations? Xiao Jin nodded and told him about it. Zhong Li Peining sighed and said, that's what we guessed as well, but it's a little unrealistic. We can cooperate with them overseas, but it's impossible for them to share such top-secret information with us. They insist that there won't be any problems internally, but I've asked their relevant managers if they're collecting demonized soul seeds. They didn't deny it, but they didn't say it directly either. That already revealed the problem. Xiao Jin, if there's another Shang Yishan, it'll be up to fate whether or not I can make it in time. Zhong Li Peining. She hung up and said to Song Yanqing, it's almost time for us to go back. Song Yanqing nodded. The two array masters were locked up here. Soon, someone would come to take them away. They returned to the hotel. The power outage had caused a lot of people to panic. Now, there were police sirens and security guards everywhere. When Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing returned to the hotel, it was already midnight. The few array masters who realized that something was wrong ran away without a trace. However, when Xiao Jin set up the array, they had already been marked. If they ran away, it would depend on where they ran to. Back in the room, Song Yanqing left the master bedroom to her and slept in the second bedroom outside. Although Xiao Jin didn't think there was any difference, she didn't object to Song Yanqing's insistence. After taking a shower, she lay on the bed. Song Yanqing, who had thought that she would rest after washing up, opened the door and looked at her with a smile. At least the vacation I prepared can't be wasted. Shall I take you around the other countries in Eastern Europe these few days? Of course. Xiao Jin nodded and agreed. Chapter 846. She was curious about the world. She wanted to walk around and see the development of this era. The next morning, the hotel delivered food. Song Yanqing was already dressed. Xiao Jin just got up from the bed. It wasn't that she wasn't awake, but Song Yanqing woke up earlier than her. Seeing Xiao Jin get up, he chuckled. Good morning. Xiao Jin didn't know how to disguise herself. She just washed her face and brushed her teeth in the morning. She didn't bring any skincare products in her suitcase. She was nourished by the array every day, so she didn't need them. Xiao Fei didn't know that at home, so she always wore skincare masks. Every time she saw Xiao Jin, she would say with jealousy, why is there such a big gap between people? Ji Qiue and Chai Yueli didn't have such good genes. Her hair was hanging down and looked a little messy, but it still had a black luster. When she sat down to eat breakfast, Song Yanqing walked over and picked up a few strands of her hair with his fingertips. Why don't you tie it up when you're eating? Will you find it inconvenient? Xiao Jin, it's okay. Song Yanqing paused, suddenly turned, and walked into his room. When he came out, he took out a black and gold hairband. He took the hairband and began to tie up Xiao Jin's long hair. They gave me this when I ordered clothes before. Now I know how to use it. He tied up Xiao Jin's long hair. He didn't need to comb it. After tying it up, he tied it into a beautiful bow. After her hair was tied up, it was refreshing. It looked more delicate. Xiao Jin didn't care how he tied her hair. After he was done, she asked, why do you know how to tie hair? Song Yanqing chuckled, is it difficult? I've seen my sister tie hair before.
Oh.
Xiao Jin was not surprised. After eating a sandwich, she said, I'm full. Compared to when she was in China, she didn't eat much. Song Yanqing said, it's all these over here. The taste isn't to our liking. We can go to a better place. Last night, when he said that he was going to take Xiao Jin out to play, he had already made arrangements. Xiao Jin nodded, and the two of them walked out hand in hand. For the next few days, they were like a normal couple, playing in some small countries in Eastern Europe. After wandering around for a few days, they finally returned to their country. Everything was rather casual, and nothing that shouldn't have happened. Song Yanqing respected her very much, and would only kiss her cheek occasionally. When she returned to China, she even bought some gifts for Qiao Fei and the others. However, when he returned home, the atmosphere at home didn't seem very good. Qiao Fei was sitting at home, a little worried, so much so that she wasn't too surprised to see Qiao Jin back. Qiao Jin sensed that something was wrong, so she asked, "Fei Fei, what's wrong?" When she saw Qiao Jin, Qiao Fei forced a smile. "Jin," she was a little hesitant, "how are you and Lord Song doing?" "Pretty good." Qiao Jin was a little puzzled. "Why do you look like that? Did something happen at home? Or did Chai Yueli come looking for trouble?"
No.
Qiao Fei shook her head. "It's just..." She hesitated for a moment, but still said, "We haven't been able to contact Qi Lian since yesterday. I don't know what's going on now. I'm a little worried." Chapter 847. You can't contact him? Qiao Jin blinked her eyes and sensed for a moment. He should be fine. That was because she did not sense anything wrong with Muzilian. When she left, she did not sense any bad luck from Muzilian either. After being raised in the Mu family for so long, his luck was not something that ordinary people could compare to. "I don't know if he's fine. After all, I can't contact him. Mom is worried." Qiao Fei's expression did not look too good. "I called him yesterday afternoon and couldn't get through." "Didn't you go overseas?" "He was bored and said that someone asked him to go to a remote place to play. I don't know where exactly he went. The signal there is not good." Just as she said that, a call came in from the other side of the phone. Qiao Fei took a look and hurriedly picked it up. "Why couldn't I get through to you for the entire day? Where the hell have you been?" "I dropped my phone." There was a buzzing sound on the other side. It sounded like the signal was not too good. Muzilian's voice was very clear. "I went to his hometown in the countryside with my brother. Their place is very remote, and there is no signal. I dropped my phone and took someone else's phone. I can't even buy a new one here. I just wanted to call you. Mom, don't worry." Do. As soon as she finished speaking, the other party hung up. Can't this child finish his words? Why did he hang up so quickly? Qiao Jin asked. He and his brother?
Who are they?
They said that it was someone with the surname Zong. Qiao Fei was a little confused as well. I don't know who they are either. I just said that they went to the countryside and did not know when they would be back. Thankfully, they returned my call. I'm not so worried anymore. Qiao Jin smiled. You don't have to worry. It's nothing serious. Qiao Fei was still worried. I'm worried about you guys. If you guys went anywhere, you must call me every day. I'm very worried when I can't contact you guys. His family was used to letting their imaginations run wild. If Qiao Fei could not contact them, the best-case scenario would be that they dropped their phones. However, people would always think of the worst. What if they were kidnapped? How miserable would that be? Qiao Jin smiled and carried his suitcase upstairs. Then, he took the things he bought and gave them to Qiao Fei. Qiao Fei was a little happier when he saw the gift he had bought for her. You must have had a good time with Lord Song. Sigh, a grown girl can't be kept at home. Qiao Jin. Fei Fei's way of thinking was a little too much. When Mu Xiangshan and Mu Zhenming returned that night, Qiao Fei told them about Muzilian. This morning, Mu Zhenming was trying to find a way to contact Muzilian through his connections. Now that he heard that it was because he had lost his phone, he was relieved. Muzicha still said, if you lose your phone, you should buy a new one as soon as possible. Qiao Fei muttered. He also said that the place was too remote to buy a cell phone. Seriously, is there still a place where you can't buy a cell phone? Isn't there a delivery service? Mu Xiangshan snorted coldly and said, You have long hair and short eyes. Do you really think that we're in an advanced society now? There are still primitive societies overseas. What's so strange about our country not having convenient transportation? He's just running around all day with nothing to do. What if, when he came out and saw the shocked expression on Xiao Fei's face, Mu Xiangshan did not say anything? He couldn't curse his grandson for no reason, right? Chapter 848. Mu Zhenming, Dad. What if what? Mu Xiangshan. What if you don't know what it is? Mu Zhenming. Muzicha frowned and didn't say anything. Xiao Jin was already used to such situations and didn't say anything. After dinner, they went upstairs to rest. Heavy rain fell from the sky, and there were flashes of lightning and roars of thunder. In this rain, only an extremely tall and strange figure could be seen. Every step he took was inexplicably distorted. He held an axe and walked towards a few houses in the rain. Knock, knock, knock. Although it was still raining heavily, the knocking sound was extremely ear-piercing in the rain. The ear-piercing sound sank into people's hearts and made them shiver. The people hiding in the house didn't dare to make a sound and covered the mouth of the child in their arms tightly. Their faces were full of panic and fear. No one dared to respond to the sound outside. Gradually, only the sound of the rain could be heard. The knocking sound seemed to have stopped. The man in the house gradually let go of the child's mouth and whispered to his wife, "Did he leave?" His wife shook her head in panic and said in a trembling voice, I don't know." As soon as she said this, there was a sudden bang. The sound of the axe hitting the door sounded, and a deafening scream sounded in the house.
Boom.
The sound of thunder rang. When you woke up from the bed, he was drenched in sweat.
Mom.
You cried. Next to him, Yu Chu also woke up and immediately hugged you. Mom is here, Mom is here. What happened to you? What happened? She was a little worried and quickly turned on the lights. On the big bed, only Yu's pale face could be seen. He climbed out of the bed and was hugged by Yu Chu. She was a little heartbroken. Yu would have nightmares from time to time, and it made her very scared. Yu was a spirit master of speech who had been brought back by Xiao Jin. Song Yanqing had arranged for someone to take care of her, and everything was going according to plan. Yu hid in Yu Chu's arms as though he was seeking a sense of security. After a long time, he lifted his head from Yu Chu's arms and looked at Yu Chu. He suddenly said, "Mom, call Brother Yanqing. I want to see him." See him? Yu Chu hesitated. When she arrived, she saw the young master of the Zhilan family. He was the most handsome person she had ever seen in her life. He was like a god that did not exist in the mortal world. She knew that such a person was extremely difficult to meet. She didn't know if the other party would agree in the middle of the night. She hesitated for a moment before replying, "Why do you want to see him?" Yu's voice was very soft. "I feel like I have something to tell him. Brother Guanqing said that if I want to talk to him, I can see him." Yu Chu knew that Yu was different from others since she was young. She could only nod. "Okay, Mom will call you." When Song Yanqing received the news and came over, Yu was sitting in the study drawing. In the middle of the night, if it was someone else, it would have been fine. But since it was Yu, he had to come. He held a paintbrush but wasn't very familiar with drawing. When he came in, Yu Chu was standing outside the door. When Yu saw Song Yanqing, he didn't say anything. He put down his paintbrush and held the drawing in front of him in front of Song Yanqing. When Song Yanqing saw Yu's drawing, the smile on his lips froze slightly, because the scene in Yu's drawing was exactly the same as the dream he had tonight. Chapter 849. A child's drawing skills were not very good. However, a simple drawing still revealed some flavor. The background color was filled with red crayon lines, and there were a few small blue houses beside it. The drawing was not very formal. Among the red lines, he used red crayons to draw a particularly large monster. The monster's body was twisted, and its face could not be seen clearly. It was holding an axe, and its body seemed to be taller than the house. Because the content of the drawing was so strange, he recognized it at a glance. It was exactly the same as the dream he had tonight. He was silent for a moment. "You dreamed about it tonight?" Yu nodded and said softly, "I think I should tell you." Song Yanqing had never met other spiritualists. He did not know if Yu's perception was as strong as his, but if they had dreamed of the same scene, it was definitely not simple. This was because their dreams were often prophetic. This thing represented something. Song Yanqing touched his head and said softly, "Then you will be leaving with me tonight. I will take you to see Sister Qiao Jin." Yu nodded. "Okay." Song Yanqing smiled and turned to Yu's mother, Yu Chu. "I'm sorry, Miss Yu. I need to take you to see Qiao Jin." The thing he dreamed of tonight was strange. Yu Chu did not understand this, but she knew that Song Yanqing would not harm them. She could only agree. "Then you can take him." This time, Yu did not mention that he wanted to go with his mother. When he left, he waved obediently. "Bye, Mom." Yu Chu waved back. "Bye." She had some expectations in her heart. After a while, she could not help but say, "Mr. Song, you and my son should be careful." She instinctively felt that Song Yanqing's intention to take you away was not simple. Song Yanqing only nodded. He could not let you encounter any danger. It was already 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning when you woke Song Yanqing up. It was only 5 o'clock when they arrived at the Mu family's house. Qiao Jin was not awake at first, but she was woken up by a phone call. The person on the other side was very direct. "Qiao Jin, we've run into trouble again. Are you coming? But this time they are all busy, so I can only ask you and Ji Mengmeng to make a trip there." Qiao Jin was woken up from his sleep. His voice was faint. "Miss Zhongli, is the spirit group treating me as a reserve now?" Zhongli paying 10 million. It may also carry array points. It's just a possibility.
If you want, of course we won't object.
Qiao Jin. She was silent for 3 seconds. "Tell me about it?" Zhongli Peining told Qiao Jin one thing. Qiao Jin and the others had been to Nanjiang City once, so they were not unfamiliar with it at all. But this time they went to a small village under Nanjiang City. It was thousands of miles away from Nanjiang City. It was located in the mountains. The village was very closed. Because it was surrounded by mountains, transportation was very inconvenient. The people in the village almost lived an isolated life. Even the signal there was not very good. When the spirit group received a call for help, things were already too strange. There was a big problem in the closed village. Many people had died. The key was that the things inside had not been found out yet. The local spirit group sent people to investigate. None of them came back. They didn't even send out any information. Only a photo was sent out. Not being able to contact them in such a dangerous place almost meant death. Chapter 850. After the spiritual readers went there, they also began to disappear. Only then did they realize that something was wrong. This place was different from the place where Mo Jiang was buried last time. This time they went to a closed village, a real remote area, and it was difficult to contact the outside world. Even entering the mountains, they had to walk through a very dangerous and high-risk road. After arriving at the local town, it would take 3 hours to get to the village by car. Going back and forth, it would take them a day to go back to the city. They did not dare to contact other spiritual readers. They thought of Qiao Jin, so they came to find Qiao Jin. Since Qiao Jin solved several difficult and miscellaneous problems for the spirit group, he had now officially become their external aid. If it was really a normal situation, there was no need to ask Qiao Jin for help. When Qiao Jin was on the phone, she heard the sound of a car horn outside the Mu family's house. It was not yet dawn outside.
She seemed to have sensed something.
She got up and looked outside. Outside the window, Song Yanqing was standing there, and there was a small figure beside him. Qiao Jin said, "Send me the information. I have something to do here." Song Yanqing would not come to her for no reason. She hung up the phone and walked downstairs. When she saw you, she raised her eyebrows slightly. "Why did you even bring him here? What's the big deal?" Song Yanqing looked at her and said softly, "I had the same dream as him this time, and the same scene appeared in the dream. Is that so?" Qiao Jin looked at you and said slowly, "You, what did you dream of?" You also showed the painting she brought to Qiao Jin. When Xiao Jin saw the distorted black shadow on it, his eyes narrowed. This was obviously not a human being. It could only be a thing made by a formation master. At this moment, her phone beeped. Zhongli Painting had sent her the only problematic photo. It was a dark village. From the photo, it looked like it was taken during the day. Even though it was a bright day, the village in the photo was abnormally depressing. The few houses that existed were all dark, as if they were covered with a layer of black canvas. Against the towering mountains in the distance, it was full of oppressive and dark tones. The house was relatively short, and it seemed like the owner of the photo had taken it from a high place. This photo happened to fall into Song Yanqing's eyes. He hesitated for a moment. This is it. Xiao Jin suddenly turned around. Are you sure? You also took a look and quickly nodded. It's here, Sister Xiao Jin. I dreamt of this place. Compared to his painting, the place where the demons appeared did indeed look like these few houses. It was just that the painting was too blurry. After all, they had dreamed of it. When Song Yanqing said it was here, she knew that they had to go to this place. She paused. Wait a moment. I'll go up and change my clothes. You can book the tickets. This place is Nanjiang. Nanjiang? Song Yanqing closed his eyes. The place where you brought Emo Jiang back last time? Xiao Jin nodded, but this time, it's very far away. Song Yanqing reacted. You also received the news? Coincidentally, the spirit group also came to find me. They said that many people have gone missing in this place. They still don't know the reason. You also had a related dream. I'm afraid this place is very dangerous. Song Yanqing also said solemnly. Is it another formation point similar to the rules? Xiao Jin shook his head. No, the remaining formation points are not so easy to obtain. Even you dreamed of it. I'm leaning towards something else. Chapter 851. She went upstairs to change her clothes and gave Zhong Li Painting a call. I've accepted the mission, but I want someone else. I want Emo Jiang to go instead of Ji Mengmeng. Zhong Li Painting paused for a moment. Emo Jiang just joined the Ling group. How do you know? Xiao Jin laughed. Do you think I don't know? Zhong Li Painting. She thought of many things, but did not dare to say a word. She could only gulp and say, okay, I'll ask her. Emo Jiang had just joined and was a troublemaker, so she did not dare to look for her for anything. She still had to ask if she agreed. Emo Jiang was still filming and was not very happy to receive this news early in the morning. However, when she heard that it was Xiao Jin's request, she agreed after a moment of silence. Since she agreed, things were much easier to handle. Song Yanqing's actions were also very fast. He quickly arranged plane tickets to Nanjiang for few people. Xiao Jin changed her clothes and came downstairs with her suitcase. She happened to see Xiao Fei, who had just woken up. Xiao Fei was stunned when she saw Xiao Jin carrying her suitcase. Where are you going? You just came back yesterday. There was an emergency, and I had to go out. Song Yanqing is still waiting for me outside. Xiao Fei said sternly. Where are you going? Isn't it too much for the two of you to go on dates every day? Xiao Jin said naturally, it's not a date. I'm going to save the world. Xiao Fei. She actually treated him like a fool. This was even more ridiculous than going to a disco. She was so angry. At this moment, Mu Xiangshan woke up and came downstairs for breakfast. When he saw that Xiao Jin was about to leave, he immediately laughed and said, just let her go. If she wants to save the world, can you stop her? If you're late and can't save the world, it'll be your fault. Xiao Fei. Dad, are you suffering from dementia? Xiao Fei didn't dare to say it out loud. Xiao Jin smiled faintly and left with his suitcase. When she came out, Song Yanqing was waiting for her outside. Seeing her carrying a suitcase, he smiled and said, you are fully prepared. I think it might take a few days. She glanced at you and said softly, since you is dreaming about it, she might want to go with us? You nodded. She knew what Xiao Jin meant. She said softly, can I call my mother? Song Yanqing, of course. I will explain it to your mother. Qiao Jin told her that Mo Jiang was also going. She didn't know why Qiao Jin would bring Mo Jiang along. Song Yanqing didn't ask. She first took you with her to call her mother. Yu Chu expressed her understanding, but she still hoped that Song Yanqing and the others would protect you. Qiao Jin received a message from Mo Jiang. There was only one. Mo Jiang, do you know that I still have to film? Qiao Jin replied, it's more convenient to bring you along than the spirit team. Nanjiang is where I brought you back. It might be your nest. Mo Jiang, that's such a terrible thing to say. What nest? Qiao Jin, the spirit team gave me 10 million. How about this? I will ask them to give you another 10 million. Mo Jiang, where are you now? Qiao Jin smiled. The airport. I have arranged a ticket for you. Come over. Mo Jiang happily agreed. She was only paid a few $100,000 for this movie. The main reason was that she wasn't famous at all. This was the generous price that the director gave her. Chapter 852. Mo Jiang felt that it was worth 10 million yuan to follow the big boss. The sports car she had her eyes on cost 3 million yuan. She had been thinking about it for a long time, and now she finally had the money to buy it. She happily applied for leave from the crew. Although she was the second female lead and her scenes could be pushed back, suddenly applying for leave would still disrupt some of the plans. After hearing this, the director was dumbfounded, but he couldn't stand the beauty's temper. In the end, he still sucked up to her. Her scenes could be pushed back. How could it be more important than the beauty's matter? When she arrived at the airport and saw Qiao Jin, she realized that there was more than one person beside Qiao Jin. It was her first time seeing Song Yanqing and Yu. Song Yanqing had seen her in the coffin, but she had never seen Song Yanqing before. She looked at Song Yanqing, then at Yu, and finally at Qiao Jin. She said, "You never told me that you were married and had a child." Qiao Jin. This is not my child. Song Yanqing laughed. Even Mo Jiang was a little dazed by his charming face. His voice was gentle, but there was a hint of politeness and alienation. I'm Qiao Jin's boyfriend. This kid is my younger brother. Song Yanqing didn't say anything about their identities as spiritualists. Mo Jiang was a little enlightened. Oh, look at this person. He was quite compatible with Qiao Jin. Mo Jiang was still wondering what kind of man was worthy of the big boss. Now that he saw it, it wasn't strange. Some people were really born to be a perfect match. She felt that way when she saw Qiao Jin and Song Yanqing. It was a pity that the big boss couldn't understand the true meaning of love like her, to raise a few more spare tires. After boarding the plane, Yu was still a little nervous. Qiao Jin and Song Yanqing were the kind of people who were not very clingy. Yu and Mo Jiang sat together. She smiled and seemed to be very interested in Yu. She poked Yu's cheek and asked, "Little brother, how old are you this year?" To be brought along by Qiao Jin, he was definitely not an ordinary person. Mo Jiang couldn't tell that Yu was a spiritualist, but he wasn't stupid. He knew that Yu had her uses. Being stared at by Mo Jiang, Yu shrunk back a little. "Sister, I'm 8 years old." 8 years old. Mo Jiang clicked his tongue and scratched Yu's face with his bright red nails. So small. Recently, because she needed to make bright red pills for acting, she looked a little scary. However, he was careful not to hurt Yu's tender cheeks. When the stewardess in the first-class cabin saw the 3 good-looking guests, her eyes almost popped out of their sockets. She was much more diligent in running around. Both men and women were good-looking. It was simply the happiest trip they had ever taken. It didn't take long to reach Nanjiang. They arrived at noon. However, they had to transfer to that place. The following time was more difficult. Because there were no outsiders, Qiao Jin directly told them about the message he received from Zhong Li Peining. This village was called Yuqi Village. The last census of the village's population was 3 years ago. At that time, there were more than 100 people. Most of them were old people and children. The young people in the village all came out. However, since a month ago, there had been missing people in the village. However, the village was too far away and was in a closed state. At first, no one noticed. Later, the local police station in the town received a call. Chapter 853. However, this was just an ordinary call to the police, and nothing was revealed on the phone. Because the number that made the call was not in service, they finally found out that it was from Yuchi village. The police were sent to investigate, but after the 2 police officers went there, they disappeared. There was no news at all. The town was scared and reported to the higher-ups. Something was wrong, and the spirit group was informed. The spirit group sent 2 spiritual readers, but obviously, they were completely wiped out. Zhongli Painting's information showed that someone had entered the village 5 days ago. The village was too isolated and too far away. Even if there was a problem, it was unrealistic to send people to intercept it because not many people would go there, not to mention the news could not be spread. The spiritual readers went missing 3 days ago. Realizing that something was wrong, the spirit group directly went to Qiao Jin. The reason they were quick-witted was that the spirit group had no one now. The previous few matters had taken a big hit, and this time, it was such a strange matter. In order to avoid losses, they would definitely ask Qiao Jin to take a look. It did not matter if it was expensive. The spirit group did not lack money. Besides, as long as Qiao Jin was involved, she would definitely be able to handle it. Either there is a formation or there is something inside killing people. Mo Jiang sat in the car and blew on his nails. There are only these 2 possibilities. Qiao Jin, any normal person would think so. Mo Jiang. Thank you for thinking that I am a normal person. In order to avoid dangerous situations, they specially rented a car. The driver was Song Yanqing, and they followed the guidance of a GPS all the way to the mountains. As he drove, he said, Yuchi village is very remote. The GPS only shows that we are in a neighboring village. If we get there, we will probably have to ask someone to find the way in. Qiao Jin said, Zhongli Painting helped us contact the local police station. They will tell us how to get in. This time, even Song Yanqing and you received a notification, which meant that it wasn't a simple matter. He didn't know what was waiting for him, or if it was a new clue. When they drove to the local town, it was already night time. There were indeed police officers there to meet them, but when the police officers heard that they were going there tonight with a child, they refused to agree no matter what. That village is so strange. You really have to think it through. And it's too far away. Even if you go there now, it should be morning by the time you reach the village. It's dangerous to drive at night. Qiao Jin and the others declined the good intentions of the police. They knew it was dangerous, but going at night meant that they could get more clues. After receiving the map drawn by the police, Song Yanqing and the others continued to drive. It was quiet in the car. They were in the countryside, and it was dark outside. They drove past desolate places. Other than the asphalt road, it was hard to see a house. The road was so quiet that it was frightening. Inside the car, Ju was quietly playing with building blocks. Mo Jiang, on the other hand, found it rather interesting. Kid, aren't you afraid? You looked up and smiled. With sister Qiao Jin and brother Yanqing here, why should I be afraid? Mo Jiang patted Yu's little head. You have a bright future. She looked at the night outside and was a little curious. How much longer? Qiao Jin answered according to the time given by the police. About 3 hours. Chapter 854. In the second half of the road, they really entered the range of the mountain. Especially in the second half of the road, they drove directly from a mountain. That section of the road was very compact. It was next to the mountain wall. Not far from the left was a cliff. It could only accommodate 2 cars. Those who dared to build the road here were some brave warriors. However, the road here also came to an end. The second half of the road was very bad. It was almost completely man-made. Song Yanqing bought the off-road car at the last minute. it could handle such a section. The village was in the mountain. After this section of the road, it was at the foot of the mountain. Because there was only one road into the village, the people in the village rarely came out except for big purchases. It was normal that there was no news. As they drove down a slope, the road gradually widened. At the foot of the mountain, they saw a house that was almost emitting smoke. Mo Jiang raised his eyebrows. Didn't they say that most of the people are dead? There are still people living here? If we can't get out, the people here can't do anything. Xiao Jin looked at the surrounding environment of the village and suddenly said, I don't feel any traces of a formation. It's not a formation? Song Yanqing was a little surprised. When he drove into the village, they came down from a hillside.
It was as if they came out of the mountain.
A huge mouth like a bloody basin spat them out. When they came down from the hillside, they saw several cars parked on both sides of the road behind the outermost village. These cars were all good cars. There was a luxury car, a car modified by the spirit group, and a police car. Only the car was empty. There was no one in it. The car was a little dusty. It looked like it had been parked for a while. But the people were gone.
Xiao Jin looked at the time.
It was 4:30 in the morning. She said, the people in the village wake up so early. They woke up to make breakfast. You suddenly said, Mom and I used to wake up so early because we had to work. Mo Jiang and Xiao Jin both glanced at him. Song Yanqing did not drive in rashly. Instead, he parked the car by the side of the road next to the police car. He got out of the car and looked at the cars. He pointed at the luxury car and said, it doesn't look like it belongs to the spirit group. The land price for this car is 5 million yuan. Mo Jiang immediately looked at it twice. The car was a bit like the off-road vehicle that Song Yanqing had bought, but it was bigger. She couldn't help but complain. Such an ugly car is worth 5 million? Xiao Jin asked, is there such a rich person in this village? They got out of the car and started walking towards the village. Going straight down from the hillside, there were a few families halfway up the hillside. There were more than a dozen families scattered about in the village below. It was as if the bottom was the center. Xiao Jin and the others first looked at the houses halfway up the mountain. When they knocked on the houses one by one, they found something unbelievable. The door could be opened, and there was even a fire burning in the house. But there was no one. It was as if someone was cooking, but had just left. However, Xiao Jin and the others did not feel anyone's aura. She and Song Yanqing looked at each other and realized that this matter was unusual. Xiao Jin had never encountered such a thing in a long time. She silently became serious and summoned Devourer to set up a formation. However, the rules jumped out. There is no danger. It is in accordance with the rules. Chapter 855. Xiao Jin. She didn't know why Rule would jump out and make such a prediction. Ever since she freeloaded Rule last time, it didn't seem to want to pay much attention to Xiao Jin. Now, it jumped out of its own accord. There must be a reason for this abnormality. Xiao Jin's array was even larger. Rule seemed to be flustered and exasperated and retreated. Unless she wanted to, no one else could see her array. But at that moment, Mo Jiang still felt a very fatal pressure coming from Xiao Jin's body. It was as if there was a power that made her extremely afraid. She knew that Xiao Jin was powerful before, but now that she felt this, she still felt a little wary. This was obviously not on the same level as her. She was even more suspicious of Xiao Jin's origins. In her memory, she had no memory. She just didn't feel such a powerful existence. There was no one in the few houses halfway up the mountain, but Song Yanqing suddenly said, someone is talking at the foot of the mountain. They held their breaths and listened carefully. Sure enough, they heard faint voices. Mo Jiang said, although you two are big shots, I still have to say that I don't feel like something has happened here. Xiao Jin touched his chin. It seems like someone is trapped here. They just can't get out, but I don't feel any traces of an array. If it wasn't an array, then it was strange. Either an extremely powerful wizard had a special ability that trapped people here. Anything was possible. Song Yanqing suddenly said, Then, what Zhongli Painting said about people dying here? The spirit group was missing, but the first news that came out was that many people had died. That was why they came to investigate. Xiao Jin said, then we need to see for ourselves. Let's go down. No matter what the reason was, there had to be a reason. She still had a pile of demonized spirit seeds in her hands. Although she was using them to reduce her own backlash, she would still use them when she needed to. Xiao Jin was not arrogant, because others could not harm her, but she knew that there was a very strange existence in the natural array point. Even if she could not feel that there was an array here, it did not mean that there was nothing else. When they went down the mountain and officially entered the village, they finally saw a villager passing by. However, when the villager saw them, he was shocked and quickly ran back to his home. His home was not far in front of him. He ran back to his home and slammed the door shut with a bang. Mo Jiang. Do I look that scary? What does he mean? Ever since Mo Jiang woke up, she did not display the demeanor of a high priestess at all. She was very irritable. You even said sweetly, Sister Mo Jiang, you're very beautiful. Mo Jiang pinched his face and said, you have good taste.
It's not necessarily about looks.
Song Yanqing thought about the man's panicked expression when he closed the door and left. He seemed just shocked by our appearance. He was very scared that there were people in the village. This proved that there was indeed something strange in the village. Xiao Jin said, look at the phone. Everyone looked down at their phones. It was indeed a common plot in horror stories. There was no signal, so they could not send any messages. At this moment, the door of a house on the slope in front of them suddenly opened. A girl's voice was also heard. Why are we going out so early in the morning? Chapter 856. When the girl saw Xiao Jin, she was very shocked. When Xiao Jin saw her, he really didn't expect to see her, so he frowned a little, which was rare. Enchanting was also stunned. She didn't expect to see Xiao Jin in such a remote place in her hometown. Are you here to look for Qi Lian? Enchanting was stunned. She turned around and shouted toward the house behind her, Qi Lian, your sister is here to look for you. Where? As soon as he heard this familiar voice, Song Yanqing saw Xiao Jin press his hand to his forehead, which was rare. He probably knew the reason and couldn't help but smile. A familiar figure rushed out of the house. Who else could it be but Muzilian? When Muzilian saw Xiao Jin, he was also stunned. Fuck, Xiao Jin, why are you here? How did you find me in such a remote place? Mom is so worried about me that she sent you to look for me. I'm so touched. As he spoke, 2 drops of crocodile tears seemed to fall from the corners of Muzilian's eyes. Xiao Jin's voice was very cold. Do you think it's a good thing that I'm here? Muzilian. What did he mean by that? His heart suddenly turned cold. Another person walked out from behind him.
It was Zongyu.
Xiao Jin understood at once. Zongyu invited Muzilian to the countryside to play. However, Xiao Jin would never have thought that their countryside was actually here. This was the place where something went wrong. For a moment, he suddenly believed what Muzilian said. There was indeed a reason why he was chosen by Rule Mountain. He was destined to be unlucky. When Zongyu saw Xiao Jin and the others, he was faintly in disbelief. He was stunned for a moment and said, Are you here to look for Muzilian? Xiao Jin regained his composure. If I'm here to look for him, do you think I'll bring someone else along? When Muzilian saw Song Yanqing, he was dumbfounded. Brother Yanqing, you're here for me too? Song Yanqing felt that Muzilian's self-associative ability was simply too strong. Moreover, he was also full of self-comforting spirit. The last time in the Mountain of Laws, he had already felt it. There was a slight smile on his lips, but the words that came out of his mouth were a little creepy. You've been here for a few days. Don't you feel that there's something wrong with this village? No, what's wrong? Isn't this Zongyu's hometown? Muzilian jumped up, vaguely feeling that Song Yanqing was trying to scare him. Don't scare me, Brother Yanqing. What's wrong? I've been calling home every day for the past few days, and I even told my mother that we'll go back tomorrow. Xiao Jin suddenly interrupted him. You've been calling home every day? Fei Fei only received one call from you yesterday. In the call, you said that you lost your phone and used someone else's phone to call home. Before you could finish the call, you hung up. Fei Fei didn't even have time to reply to you. Now you're telling me that you've been calling home every day? Muzillion. Enchanting was stunned. Zhong Yu's eyes suddenly focused. There's nothing wrong with us these past few days. Qi Lian did call home, and Auntie Qiao even told him to take good care of his body. He paused at this point. Of course, he also knew that something was wrong. Qiao Jin and the others came from outside, but they were in the mountains. If Qiao Jin said so, then who was Muzillion calling these past few days? Muzillion's face was pale and pitiful. I didn't lose my phone at all. Chapter 857. He even took out his phone to prove it. His phone was indeed in his hand. He looked at Xiao Jin bitterly. Don't scare me. It's not funny at all. When I called home yesterday, Mom told me to go back early. You and Grandpa were still talking on the phone. Xiao Jin, I saw Xiao Fei answer the phone yesterday. I was listening at the side, but I didn't say anything. Grandpa wasn't there. Also, Fei Fei said that your phone hasn't been working since the day before yesterday. The only call was yesterday. I just got home. Muzillion. His heart fell into hell in an instant. He knew it. He was the chosen one. Damn it, the incident at Mount Ruji wasn't over yet. He was chosen again. Enchanting was even more confused. She didn't understand Xiao Jin at all. How is that possible? My brother and I were listening at the side when Qi Lian made the phone call. We've been here for the past few days. Everything is normal. She was an ordinary person who hadn't experienced anything. Naturally, she couldn't feel that something was wrong. Zhong Yu immediately grabbed Enchanting's hand and looked at Xiao Jin with a serious expression. What's the situation outside? Mo Zheng looked at them with interest. Song Yanqing explained, we received a notice that many people in your village have died. The 2 policemen and 2 special personnel who came in have all disappeared. There was no news at all. We didn't expect you to be here too. Enchanting's face paled. Where did the policemen come in these 2 days? Now, she could feel that something was wrong. If such a thing really happened, why didn't they feel anything when they were inside? Xiao Jin suddenly looked back. This time, they saw a hair-raising situation. The car was gone. When they came down, they could clearly see the car halfway up the mountain. But now, they couldn't see it. Together with their vehicles, they were missing. It was as if they had truly and completely entered a world isolated from the rest of the world. Maybe what happened just now wasn't an illusion. There were indeed traces of people living in those places, but the people were gone. Because they were in 2 completely different worlds. Xiao Jin turned his head and looked down at Song Yanqing. I don't feel any changes in the world. Unlike the Mountain of Laws, which used its power to create an illusory world, she could feel that this world was also real. The villagers, Muzillion, Zhong Yu, and the others were also like that. However, there was a special boundary that separated them. Since they were able to walk in, there was no reason for the police officers and the spirit team members to disappear. Unless what they entered was a crevice. Xiao Jin's group had different powers. They had entered the real world. As for Zhong Yu and the others, they belonged here. It's starting again? Muzillion's face turned pale. We're in here again. He glanced at his phone. Fuck. Why is there no signal on my phone? He had been playing with 4G on his phone for the past few days. Why was there no signal all of a sudden? No beginning, no rules. Song Yanqing asked Zhong Yu, are you from here? Zhong Yu nodded. We spent our childhood here. He hesitated for a moment and pulled Shutian. Shutian is not from here. This is my hometown. Chapter 858. Enchanting didn't know what was going on, but she was a little confused. Brother, what happened?
What are you talking about?
Zongyu said to them, let's go up first, it's cold outside. As expected of a man who had experienced the mountain of rules, he was calm enough. Realizing that something was wrong, if he panicked, it would arouse the fear of others. He let Xiao Jin and the others come up. Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing went up together. Mo Jiang pulled you. You as a child, but she wasn't afraid. She just looked around curiously. They entered the house, where Zongyu and the others were. The lights were on in the house. It was just a simple three-tiled house. On the left was the kitchen, which was made of mud. I lived here when I was young, Zongyu said softly. This time I came back to sweep my grandfather's grave. I thought the scenery here was good, so I called Qi Lian to come with me. I didn't expect it to be another trap. Muzilian now seriously suspected that he was destined to be unlucky. He now knew that Xiao Jin was wrong. Where Xiao Jin appeared, how could it be a good place? He wiped his face and looked at Xiao Jin. Speak, I can bear whatever you say now. You said that this is not a game. Then where is this? Can we really not get out? After he said this, his eyes looked at Mo Jiang who came with them. He had never seen Mo Jiang, but looking at faces was a common problem for men, especially a man like Muzilian. His eyes didn't move, and he looked at Mo Jiang in a daze. Enchanting saw this and pouted, as if she was unhappy. Mo Jiang saw this and winked at Muzilian. Xiao Jin. As a result, Muzilian looked away with some disgust. Mo Jiang. You were scared just now, and now you have this attitude? Dog man. Whether or not we can leave depends on the experiment later. Song Yanqing asked, did you see anything unusual when you were sleeping at night? Have you seen other villagers in this village? Did you feel anything unusual?
No.
Zongyu replied in a deep voice, they're all people I know. There's nothing wrong with them. Nothing happened when I was sleeping at night. What do you know about the situation? As he spoke, he poured a cup of hot water for them. The cups had a rustic atmosphere. They were all white cups with pot lids from the olden days. Xiao Jin held the water and said, there is no news for the time being. I will go and see the other villagers later. You can try to see if you can get out, but I don't think you can. You said that Qi Lian had been calling for the past few days, but he didn't call at all. Now that we've arrived, there's no signal. This means that you've been immersed in a fake environment, but the strange thing is that it's now real. It's fake again. Isn't that the mountain of law you were talking about? Muzilian said nervously. I knew it. Things won't end so easily. This must be the second assessment. If we can't get through it, we'll die again. Xiao Jin said, okay. Then have you received any information about the assessment? You've been here for a few days and you're only allowed to play with your phone? Muzilian said with a wooden face, that's because you didn't come, so the mission couldn't start. Xiao Jin nodded, you're right. But this time, you'll have to pray for yourself. Muzilian. Chapter 859. Muzilian felt that Xiao Jin's words were a little too much. Could it be that the reason why we suddenly walked out of Mount Regulus was also because of you? He looked a little confused. Wasn't it because of my intelligence and wisdom? Everyone. Zongyu couldn't listen anymore. Because Enchanting didn't know anything, he reached out and waved the back of Muzilian's head and looked at Xiao Jin. Then let's see if we can go out later? Xiao Jin nodded. Have you seen anyone go out of the village in the past few days? Zongyu shook his head. We haven't seen anyone. I don't know about other times. This place was surrounded by mountains. It was very troublesome to go out. This was also the reason why Zongyu rarely came back after he left his family. He didn't expect that something would happen in his hometown. Most importantly, he didn't know what happened. But from the tone of Xiao Jin and the others, he realized the seriousness of this matter. When he lowered his head to think, Enchanting was still unaware of the situation.
What are you talking about?
What was wrong? What was fake? She was a little confused as she listened. Realizing that there was someone here who didn't know the situation, Zhongyu could only pat her head and sigh. Shutian, it's a long story. Shutian, make it short. Zhongyu. He paused and hesitated. Mo Jiang couldn't stand it anymore. Why are you hesitating? Why don't you just tell her that this world is fake and that there might be something that could kill people? When we came, we received news that many people died here. You said that you didn't see the 2 policemen and the special team members who came in. But when we came, we did see their car parked halfway up the mountain. If you don't know what happened, then it's very likely that something happened to them. Mo Jiang's deduction was correct. Xiao Jin nodded and stood up. It's still early. Yan Qing and I will go check on the surrounding villagers. You and Mo Jiang will go check the place we came from. If you can't get out, then it means there's a big problem here. Zillian was a little shocked. There's only you and Brother Yanqing. What if something happens to the 2 of you? It was rare to see Zillian so conscientious at such a crucial moment. Xiao Jin said, how about this? You and Zhongyu go take a look. Brother Yanqing and Mo Jiang and I will go take a look elsewhere. Zillian waved his hand. Forget it then. There was strength in numbers. He and Zhongyu were practically fellow sufferers. Both of them were humans, so how could they have the means to face this terrifying world? If something were to happen, they would not be able to stop it. The people that Xiao Jin brought with him were definitely not ordinary people. Mo Jiang sneered. Xiao Jin brought Song Yanqing to take a look around the village. They also gave you to Mo Jiang to take care of. You was a spirit master of speech. If something was wrong, you might be able to sense it. With Mo Jiang protecting him, nothing would happen. Plus, they were not far from the village. After walking out of Zhongyu's house, they followed the path up the mountain. Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing looked around the village. The village was surrounded in the middle of the mountain, and there were intersecting slopes everywhere. There were houses built on top of the slopes. The roads on both sides were made of frozen mud. They had been formed by people walking for a long time. There were also trees of different heights and farmland in the middle. Chapter 860. Standing here, Zhongyu looked around and had a relatively wide field of vision. He could see the whole village at a glance. There were about 20 families, and there were quite a lot of people. Song Yanqing looked around and suddenly locked onto a place. Look at the 3 connected houses. Is it the location in the photo? Xiao Jin looked in the direction he was pointing. Indeed, there was a flat slope there. There were 3 houses on it. They were all tiled houses and were relatively old. The tiles were pitch black. From this side, the houses looked quite oppressive. It was indeed similar to the location in the photo. Xiao Jin nodded. Let's go and take a look. The roads in the village were all connected. There were small roads connecting the villagers wherever they went. However, the strange thing was that along the way, they could see smoke coming out of several houses. The wooden doors were closed, and no one came out. Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing could feel that someone was spying on them from a house. When they slowly turned their eyes, they could not see anyone. However, they knew that someone was watching them from the house. When they walked to the door of the 3 houses, Xiao Jin whispered, "There are people in each house." In other words, there were people living in each house. There were no empty houses. It was said that many people had died. It was reasonable to hold a funeral when people died. However, there was no sign of a funeral in the village. There were no traces of a formation. What was the reason for all this? Xiao Jin looked around. They had already walked up to the farmers in the picture. The doors of the 3 houses were tightly shut. These 3 houses were different from the other houses. Only one of them had smoke coming out of it. Xiao Jin walked to the house emitting smoke. The house was actually very dilapidated. There was a door on the side. Looking inside through the dilapidated wooden door, they could see a woman cooking in the kitchen. Xiao Jin looked at it and asked politely, "Is there anyone here?" The person in the house seemed to be a little scared. Xiao Jin could hear the kitchen utensils falling to the ground. He was obviously frightened. That person didn't dare to make a sound. Song Yanqing took over from Qiao Jin and said warmly, "Hello. We are here to visit relatives in Jade Pond Village. We have no ill intentions, but we have some questions to ask you." Song Yanqing's voice became low and gentle, as if it had the power to soothe people's hearts. Unfortunately, the person inside refused to utter a word. Until Qiao Jin and Song Yanqing heard, "Mom," it was called in the local dialect. However, the word mother was too simple and could be recognized immediately. It was a little girl's voice. "What are you doing? Don't talk." The woman's dialect was mixed with panic. This time, Qiao Jin and Song Yanqing were in a bit of a dilemma because they did not understand the local dialect. However, this was not a problem for Qiao Jin. She only drew an array formation in the void, and the words just now could be understood. "They don't dare to speak." Qiao Jin retracted his gaze and whispered to Song Yanqing, "They are very afraid of speaking." Song Yanqing's eyes suddenly darkened. The two walked to the open space beside them. Song Yanqing said to her, "I felt that something was wrong when I came in just now. Now I know what is wrong." Quiet. He looked around, and his voice was soft and illusory. "It is early in the morning, but they are cooking without making any sound. We didn't even hear the sound of insects and birds. It was so quiet that it felt suffocating." Chapter 861. This was an important piece of information. The people they called earlier made a sound, which meant that the world was normal. But they didn't dare to make a sound. They had been talking since they came in, so they didn't notice anything was wrong. Including Zhongyu and the others, they were all normal. Now that it was quiet, Qiao Jin and Song Yanqing felt that the surroundings were dead silent. There wasn't even the sound of insects or birds. In such an environment, it always gave people a particularly oppressive feeling. "We can't get out." At this moment, Muzilian's voice came from a hillside. He probably wasn't shouting, but everyone could hear him clearly. It was too quiet, as if the slightest movement could be magnified. At this moment, Qiao Jin suddenly felt something strange. She turned her head and finally saw traces of people in the village. It was a little girl, lying on the second floor of a farmhouse opposite, looking at her curiously. She was about 5 or 6 years old, and her face was round like a bun. There was no fear in her eyes, only curiosity. Qiao Jin looked at her, and so did Song Yanqing. They looked at the little girl, and the little girl grinned at them after a while. It seemed like she was laughing. However, when she laughed, there was no sound. Soon, a person walked over from the window, seeming a little shocked. He pulled her down, but carefully. Then, his movements were very flustered, but he also closed the window very gently. "The people in this village don't dare to speak." Qiao Jin confirmed this, and Song Yanqing also nodded. Qiao Jin said, "Let's go find Muzilian and the others." Song Yanqing said, "Okay." They walked along the hillside and Muzilian and the others began to come down. When Muqi saw her, he almost collapsed and said, "We really can't get out. We tried to go outside, but we couldn't find the car. When we went into the valley, we came out from the same place we went in. We just can't get out." Muqi nodded and said, "All right." In other words, they were indeed trapped here. Qiao Jin said, "Don't panic." Muzilian asked, "Aren't you worried that we can't get out?" Qiao Jin, "Don't panic." Muzilian. He had forgotten that the person in front of him was not a normal human being and could not be judged by common sense. Yin Shutian's face was pale. If she didn't know anything, her world view had been refreshed after going out for a walk. After all, the road was still the same, and the place was still the same, but the car they drove was gone. Not to mention the car. There wasn't even a trace of the car left on the ground. Not to mention that the hillside was covered in mud. It had rained for the past few days. How could there be no traces at all? Yin Shutian trembled. Are we going around in circles? Mo Jiang, I'm afraid it's even scarier than going around in circles. Yin Shutian. This was a little beyond her imagination. Xiao Jin told them what he and Song Yanqing had discovered. We found something wrong with this village, and that is that the villagers don't dare to speak. When we came here, we didn't hear any sounds other than our voices. Don't you think that this place is especially quiet? As soon as she said this, Muzillion and the others immediately quieted down. Sure enough, after no one spoke, the place became deathly silent. As long as there were traces of people living here and there were so many trees around, there would be sounds when the wind blew. How could there be no sound at all? Chapter 862. Muzillion couldn't hold it in any longer. I really didn't notice it. Zhongyu rubbed his forehead. We didn't notice it when we stayed here for the past few days. Muzillion and Enchanting were busy playing games every day. They really didn't notice such strange occurrences in the village. Enchanting trembled a little. Brother, didn't I ask you why the people in the village didn't talk to us? When they greeted them, they ignored them. At first, she thought that Zhongyu and the others had a grudge with someone when they left. When Zhongyu heard Enchanting's words, his eyes gradually darkened. Indeed, they had been here for the past few days, but they didn't know many people. Zhongyu also didn't talk to them much. They did ask others, but the people in the village ignored them, so they didn't take it seriously. Who knew that Xiao Jin would bring such strange news? They just ignored you? Song Yanqing suddenly asked. How did they react when you talked? He just doesn't want to talk to us. Enchanting was confused. When I greeted them, they didn't seem to see us, not a word. Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing's expressions suddenly became serious. At this time, Muzillion also realized that something was wrong. He reacted. Damn, it's not that they ignored us. Don't tell me they didn't see us at all? Enchanting. What kind of horror story was this? It's very possible. Xiao Jin said, this is a real and fake world. It's possible that we didn't enter the real world. You've been trapped in the illusion for the past few days, so those people couldn't see you. But after we came, they could see us, and they were very afraid. She thought for a few seconds. I have to think about it. She had a guess, but she didn't know if it was true. Song Yanqing saw that she was a little hesitant. He first asked Zhongyu to bring everyone back to his house. He then walked to the side to talk to Xiao Jin alone. Do you have any guesses? Xiao Jin nodded. If it's not a spell formation master, then it's even simpler. It's very likely that this is a real world that was created. It wasn't created by a spell formation master. Any wizard or spirit speaker who has the ability to create a world can do it. The premise is that we need to know why they created this world. Xiao Jin looked at the surrounding scenery. The villagers here don't dare to speak. Muzillion's group didn't see the villagers earlier, so we can reasonably speculate that when they first came in, Muzillion's group should have entered a fake world. This is the real world. The police and the people from the spirit team should be here, but we haven't found them yet. Song Yanqing muttered, since you said it is the real world, then is there something there? Like that monster? Xiao Jin nodded. The villagers wouldn't be afraid for no reason. You also dreamed of a monster with an axe in your precognitive dream. Based on the current situation, this monster should be using sound to identify directions. The villagers know this, so they are afraid. We have to at least find a villager to understand the situation. Song Yanqing was deep in thought. He raised his eyes and looked around. Suddenly, his gaze fell on a mountain. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.